Chapter 2501 Easily practice ancient techniques. Open black lens bracket. Seeking full order. Close black lens bracket. Soon, Yi Tian found an ancient technique in the dark sea that was more in line with the golden light of the ancient ancestors. The ancient golden mask. This is a defense-type ancient technique. It is said that once it is practiced, it is very difficult for an immemorial genius of the same rank to break it, but it is also extremely difficult to cultivate. There is also an ancient golden light technique, which is an ancient technique of speed, but it is somewhat similar to the ancient astral technique, so he did not practice this ancient technique. Try if you can train the ancient golden mask. Yi Tian muttered. He does not rely on the ancient golden blood, and directly cultivates the ancient golden mask. He originally thought that he would fail in cultivation, but after possessing the golden light of the primordial ancestor, he seemed to be able to practice the primal golden mask very easily, and he was not disappointed once during this period. After a period of time, the ancient golden mask was perfected. As this done, Yi Tian was extremely surprised. There is a Taigu ancestral Fu, and there is no Taigu ancestral Fu, the difference is too big. If I can collect a series of ancient ancestors, I am afraid that I can easily practice a series of ancient techniques. Moreover, with the ancient ancestors, my talent foundation has been greatly improved, and it will definitely be easier to break through the bottleneck. Yi Tian thought to himself. Certainly, it is not easy for him to find Taigu Zufu, and he needs a certain amount of luck. The ruins of Longhai. Yi Tian continued to look for resources, although he also found a lot of precious resources, even unknown resources, but it did not help him to temper his heart. In a word, the resources that can help the 8-time blood-changing realm immemorial genius to temper the heart are too rare and too few. Somewhere in the ruins of Longhai, a 9-time blood-change creature is moving carefully. Suddenly, a huge palm appeared out of thin air, killing it instantly. In the outside world, the creatures of the 9 blood changes are almost the pinnacles of a race or even the pillars, and as a result, they fell here easily. There are more than one powerhouse of the 9 blood transformations who have fallen like this, and there are even ancient geniuses who have fallen. There are too many resources in the ruins of Longhai. As long as you don't fall, you can earn a lot of resources after going out. Even if you don't need it, you can trade it with other powerhouses in exchange for the resources you need. In particular, if you find the resources that even the bone transformation requires, you can trade with the bone transformation in exchange for treasures that help you improve your cultivation. That's why they all want to flock here. Years passed, another period passed. This day, Yi Xingchen wandered through the territorial sea and came to a special treasure, Liguang Sea. This treasure land also has a lot of dangers, but there are not many resources, so the blood change realm powerhouses who come here are almost only between 4 blood changes and 6 blood changes. An existence like the 7 blood changes will hardly come here, because they can't find anything good here, and it's a complete waste of time. Yi Xingchen's luck was very good. He found a spider blood vine in an ordinary treasure like Liguanghai. The celestial spider blood vine can extract the blood of the celestial spider, which can help the ordinary 6 times blood change realm to impact the 7-time blood change realm. Of course, for cultivators, the spider blood vine also has the effect of enhancing the effect, but it is not as effective for the blood-changing creatures. Yi Xingchen also killed a lot of blood-changing creatures before snatching this celestial spider blood vine. However, the news of Yi Xingchen snatching the spider blood vine was leaked. Somewhere in Liguanghai, the 3 and 6 blood-changing creatures gathered together, and they all belong to the same blood-changing race, the Blood Cow. The Blood Bull clan is just a not-so-powerful blood transition race, and the strongest in the clan has only 7 blood transitions. Are we really going to do something to Yi Xingchen? He is the son of the immemorial genius endless heavenly ancestor. What's the matter? What are you afraid of? No matter how powerful the endless heavenly ancestor is, as long as we do it fast, he won't be able to find it. That is the complete blood vine of the celestial spider, which is of great help to our blood transformation race. Such a celestial spider blood vines can not only help us break through to the 7 blood transitions, but also help us cultivate 6 or 7 races with 7 blood transitions. At that time, our blood cattle will become many times stronger. 1. Yeah, take a gamble. The gap between the 6 blood changes and the 7 blood changes is too big. As long as we succeed, we can reach the sky in 1 step. Okay, let's do it. With the strength of the 3 of us, killing a world-breaking genius who has undergone 4 blood changes is simply extremely easy, enough to kill him instantly. As a result, the 3 blood change realms of the Blood Bull clan were ready to attack and kill Yi Xingchen. For them, the benefits outweigh the risks, so they can do it. Somewhere in Liguanghai, Yi Xingchen was slowly looking for opportunities here, and suddenly the void around him solidified. The 3 rays of light came, and it was the 3 and 6 blood-changing realm shots of the Blood Bull clan. The speed of the opponent's shot was too fast, and Yi Xingchen didn't have time to react. He only had time to activate the copy mark on his arm, and only in this way could he hope to survive. Everything between heaven and earth was quiet, and even the attacks of the 3 and 6 blood-changing creatures were frozen. I saw the replica imprint turned into a replica body, and Yi Tian appeared in front of Yi Xingchen. Endless heavenly ancestor. The 3-6 times blood-change creatures shivered all over. How did they never expect Yi Tian to protect Yi Xingchen all the time? What is the situation? He entered a special treasure land for 10 days, and it was impossible to appear here. Why did he see the endless ancestors here? Is it the 3 of you who attacked and killed my son? Yi Tian's icy voice filled the surrounding void. Endless heavenly ancestor, misunderstanding. The 3 blood-changing creatures shivered and said quickly. Bang bang bang. Yi Tian just waved his hand, okay Zhao, and their bodies burst open, turning into ashes in an instant. To Yi Tian, the 6 times blood-change creatures are completely ants-like existences, not to mention ordinary 6 times blood-changes creatures. Even if the 6 times blood-changes are immemorial geniuses, they are also ants-like existences. Father! Yi Xingchen shouted with lingering fears. He was almost killed just now, and if it weren't for the copy mark left by his father, he would be dead. It was only at this moment that he knew that this replica imprint could actually summon his father. This ability was too terrifying. Xingchen, you should now know how dangerous it is to roam the outside world. If you are not careful, you will be killed. Others will not care about your identity, understand? 1. Yi Tian said. Father, I know, Yi Xingchen replied. Wow, Yi Tian's body disappeared again, turned into a copy mark and merged into Yi Xingchen's arm. Chapter 2502 Transaction with the Lord of Darkness. Fortunately, the copying talent was upgraded and I gave my son a copy mark. Otherwise, if he fell this time, I really wouldn't be able to resurrect him. Yi Tian thought to himself. He used to be able to use the resurrection sun. After all, he left a lot of resurrection methods on his son, but now with his son's cultivation base breaking through 4 blood changes, those methods are naturally useless. Of course, if he hadn't copied the imprint, he wouldn't let his son wander freely. At this time, the day to leave Longhai ruins is almost here. Once the time is up, all creatures from the territorial sea will be forced to leave the ruins of the Dragon Sea. Of course, Yi Tian also had a way not to leave, that is, he stayed here as a clone of a creature from the ruins of the Dragon Sea. However, if you can't leave the ruins of the Dragon Sea, even if you collect resources, it is meaningless. Therefore, there is no need for him to stay here forcibly. This day, a repulsive force came. Yi Tian's other duplicate bodies were automatically annihilated by him, leaving only the duplicate body with resources. Outside the ruins of Longhai, one by one blood change realm appeared here, but there were some blood change realm powerhouses missing. Falling down 327, a lot of blood changes, and 2 immemorial geniuses have fallen. Yi Tian secretly said. The Dark Sea also lost a lot, and lost 3 world-breaking geniuses and an ordinary 9-time blood change realm powerhouse. This is also no way. If you want to get points, you have to take risks, and there is a risk of falling. This is still the middle boundary gap of the ruins of Longhai. If it is that kind of high boundary gap, if the blood change realm here dares to enter, most of them will die. Infinite heavenly ancestor, how is the harvest? Haifeng Tianzu came over and asked. Not bad. Yi Tian smiled. His harvest this time is indeed unmatched by other heavenly ancestors. Although he has not found enough resources to temper his heart to the limit, he has found many other resources, and there are even resources that make the bones change. Come on, let's go back to the Dark Sea, there will be an internal trade fair later. Haifeng Tianzu Dao, swish, Yi Tian and Haifeng Tianzu returned to the Dark Sea. At this time, the Lord of Darkness appeared. Wow! The Lord of Darkness waved his hand, and a treasure list appeared. CJFJ. Everyone, if you find these resources, you can exchange other resources with me. 1. The resources on this treasure list are all treasures that the Lord of Darkness needs, and are very helpful to his practice. Yi Tian took a look, he probably had hundreds of them. Dark Lord, I have 6 resources. Lord of Darkness, I have 9 resources. 1. I only have 3 resources. These ancestors took out resources one by one, traded with the Lord of Darkness, and obtained the resources they needed from the Lord of Darkness. Dark Lord, I have 398 resources. As soon as these words came out, all the ancestors were shocked, and even the Lord of Darkness looked at him with surprise. Endless Heavenly Ancestor, have you found 398 resources that I need? Asked the Lord of Darkness. Yes, Yi Tian took out 398 kinds of resources one by one, but he didn't take them out. He still left some. After all, he will need these resources when he breaks through to the bone transformation realm in the future. But even if he took out a small amount of resources, the Lord of Darkness took a deep breath. Even if I go to the ruins of Longhai, I can't find so many kinds of resources. The Dark Lord secretly said. He had to admit, Yi Tian's luck was too good. In fact, it wasn't that Yi Tian was lucky, but that he was not afraid of death. He copied his body and ran around without caring about danger at all, so he found a lot of good things. Moreover, he also copied the native creatures of Longhai ruins, so it was very difficult to obtain resources. Endless Heavenly Ancestor, what do you want to trade? Asked the Lord of Darkness. The resources that can help the 8 blood changes to refine the heart and a large amount of ancient golden blood. Yi Tian said. The Lord of Darkness is. I can give you a lot of ancient golden blood, but the resources that can help you temper your heart, even the Sea of Darkness doesn't have much, and it may not even help you much. However, I can give you a virtual emperor. Emperor's order. Haifeng Tianzu and the others immediately showed their longing when they heard it. Unexpectedly, the Lord of Darkness was willing to take out the Void Emperor token. Lord of Darkness, what is the Void Emperor's order? Yi Tian asked curiously. The Lord of Darkness introduced. In the ancient times, there was a strong man in the bone transformation realm named the Lord of the Void Emperor. He was a very rich bone transformation realm. In the battle of the ancient golden tree, most of the ancient roots were taken by him, snatched away. Among them, the primordial root marrow born from the main root has a great tempering effect even on the primordial genius of the 8th blood transformation. And the Lord of the Void Emperor suffered incurable injuries in a high-level seam, and he fell shortly after he came out. But left a treasure order as one of the keys to enter the virtual Emperor Pavilion. If you complete the quest of the Emperor Duji, you can obtain even more resources, including the ancient roots. A Void Emperor order can enter the Void Emperor Pavilion 10 times, and this Void Emperor order has only been used once. Only then did Yi Tian realize the value of this virtual Emperor decree, which must be very expensive. This Void Emperor token can be given to you. It is up to you to decide what good things you can get. There are very few Void Emperor orders that still exist in the territorial sea and boundary, so its value is very high. In addition, how about giving you a massive amount of ancient golden blood and a chance to take any action in exchange for your resources? The Lord of Darkness suggested. Lord of Darkness, let's trade like this. Yi Tian agreed. Then, the Lord of Darkness took out a void ball, which contained a sea of ancient golden blood. Yi Tian took a look and was immediately shocked by the ocean of ancient golden blood inside. So much ancient golden blood. But if you think about it carefully, the Lord of Darkness is a bone transformation realm that existed at the beginning of the primordial era. It is normal to have so much primordial golden blood. Primordial golden blood and Void Emperor decree all belong to Yi Tian, and these resources belong to the Lord of Darkness. At this time, the Lord of Darkness was in a good mood. The other heavenly ancestors also traded with the Lord of Darkness one by one. In a short time, the internal trade fair was halfway through, and then there was the transaction between the heavenly ancestors. Yi Tian didn't need to trade, he left here very quickly. After returning to the residence, Yi Tian refined the Void Emperor token and spent a little time refining the Void Emperor token completely. Maybe you can go to Zhuang Pavilion to see. Yi Tian muttered. Chapter 2503 The Ancient Imaginary Stone Open Black Lens Bracket Seeking Complete Order Close Black Lens Bracket. The Zhuang Pavilion is located in the Zhuang Mountain, and the Zhuang Mountain also belongs to the ancient treasure land, but it was arranged by the Lord of the Zhuang. If you don't hold the Void Emperor token, you can't enter the Void Emperor Mountain. Therefore, this ancient treasure land has not been occupied by any force so far. At this time, there was no heavenly ancestor near Zhuang Mountain, and the surrounding area was extremely silent, not even a single creature existed. Yi Tian came here and urged the Void Emperor order. The light of the Void Emperor's decree hooked up with the formation, allowing Yi Tian to enter the Void Emperor Mountain without hindrance, and came to the Void Emperor Pavilion. The door of the Zhuang Pavilion is open and unobstructed. However, Yi Tian was still able to sense the terrifying power inside the Void Emperor Pavilion. If there was no Void Emperor order, it would be impossible to break into the Void Emperor Pavilion. Yi Tian stepped inside the Zhuang Pavilion. At this time, a phantom appeared, which was the phantom of a big man, and his body was full of traces of time and coercion. This kind of breath is not like an artifact spirit, but more like a phantom of immeasurable will. The Lord of the Void Emperor. Yi Tian shouted. Yes, I am the Lord of the Void Emperor. The big man said lightly. Hasn't the Lord of Emperor Shu fallen? Yi Tian wondered. The Lord of the Void Emperor smiled and said, it seems that you just got the Void Emperor order by accident, and you don't understand my situation. I have indeed fallen, but I used a special method to save my boundless will in the Void Emperor Pavilion. But I have no way to leave here. Once I leave, the will of boundless will be shattered immediately. I see. Yi Tian understood in an instant. It is easy to preserve the boundless will, but it is extremely difficult to preserve a phantom of the boundless will from an injury that can make the bone transformation realm fall. Little guy, every heavenly ancestor who has obtained the Void Emperor token can get rewards through my quest. What reward do you want? Asked the Lord of Void Emperor. Lord of the Void Emperor, I want high-quality primordial roots, which can be used to impact the 9 blood transformation realm. Yi Tian said. I do have some of the superior primordial roots. The Lord of the Void Emperor said. Most of the 8-time blood change primordial geniuses like you want this kind of resources to break through the realm, but it is a pity at the time, few immemorial geniuses were able to complete my task. Also ask the Lord of the Void Emperor to talk about the mission requirements. Yi Tian said, okay, I'll give you a task. The Lord of the Void Emperor waved, and a task appeared. Collecting the ancient imaginary stone, 1 immemorial imaginary stone can be exchanged from me for 100 drops of the first-class immemorial root marrow. The Lord of the Void Emperor said. Immortal Void Stone, what is this? Yi Tian has some doubts. The Lord of the Void Emperor smiled and said, the immemorial imaginary stone is not useful to the ordinary ancestors, but it is useful to me. If I want to keep this immeasurable will, I need the power of the immemorial imaginary stone to maintain it. I see. Yi Tian understood. Afterwards, the Lord of the Void Emperor revealed the ancient imaginary stone and informed the information of the immemorial imaginary stone, so that he would not miss it when he encountered it. The ancient imaginary stones are mainly distributed in the immemorial Bitter Sea. You don't even know the immemorial imaginary stones, and you should not know the immemorial Bitter Sea. The immemorial Bitter Sea is not considered an immemorial treasure, because it does not breed any resources at all, only some immemorial imaginary stones. In addition, the primordial Bitter Sea has a great effect on the bone transmutation realm, and has no effect on the blood transition boundary. However, once it enters the primordial Bitter Sea, it will be eroded by the seawater of the primordial Bitter Sea. The primordial Bitter Sea once perished a terrifying bone transmutation realm creature, and its blood it contains terrifying corrosive power, and the long years are integrated with the seawater, so other resources will not be bred, and only the indestructible immemorial stone can be preserved. The Lord of the Void Emperor introduced. So, it is difficult to find the immemorial imaginary stone? Yi Tian asked. It's not easy. The Lord of the Void Emperor said. It may be that the number of immemorial imaginary stones is relatively small, coupled with the waste of time and the corrosiveness of the seawater of the immemorial Bitter Sea, staying there for a long time will cause irreversible effects on the body. Repair damage. Therefore, there are very few blood changes who are willing to go to the ancient Sea of Bitterness to find the ancient imaginary stone. Of course, you can also wait until the Sea of Wuzheng is opened, but when will it open? I am a phantom of infinite will, it's not clear. Ungold Sea. Yi Tian also knows that this boundary seam belongs to the same boundary seam area as the ruins of Longhai, but if he wants to open it, he will have to wait for a long time. Therefore, it is impossible for him to wait for the opening of the Sea of Nojiang. Ask for flowers. Therefore, he can only go to the Taiku Sea of Bitterness. Other immemorial geniuses are afraid of going to the immemorial Sea of Bitterness, but he is not afraid. Then, he left the Zhuang Pavilion. The ancient Sea of Bitterness. This place is very far away from Universal City, and it is not the sphere of influence of practitioners. It is the territory of a group of blood-changing races. Of course, Yi Tian's strength is so powerful that he can go anywhere, and there will be no blood transformation realm race looking for death to intercept him. Yi Tian used Taiku to move his body, kept moving and shuttled, it took a while, and finally arrived at the Taiku Sea of Bitterness. It's here, Yi Tian muttered. Immediately, he broke into the primordial Bitter Sea. There is no strength to suppress, but the corrosiveness of the primordial Bitter Sea shocked him. The terrifying corrosive power is constantly pouring into my body. The Lord of the Void Emperor is more euphemistic. Even the 8-time blood transfiguration immemorial genius can't stay here for too long. It would be unbelievable for an ordinary 8 times blood transformation expert to stay here for a day. Yi Tian murmured. Of course, he didn't care about the rot going deep into the sea of too ancient bitterness to find Taishu stone. In the primordial bitter sea, there seems to be nothing, not even a single creature. It seems that everything has been eroded by the corrosive power. Years passed, Yi Tian was constantly looking for the immemorial stone here, and his body was constantly corroded, but he ignored it. This day, Yi Tian finally found an ancient imaginary stone. Continue. He kept searching, and he found one immemorial imaginary stone after another. Of course, his fleshly body was also corroded to such an extent that countless bones that had become bone were exposed. The seawater here can corrode flesh and blood, but it cannot corrode the countless bones after bone transformation. However, his appearance looked very ferocious. Yi Tian is going to find enough immemorial imaginary stones before leaving here to go to Immortal Emperor Pavilion. After all, his Void Emperor token cannot be used permanently, so he has to cherish every opportunity to enter the Void Emperor Pavilion. The long years passed, Yi Tian gradually couldn't find the corpse of the ancient imaginary stone in the ancient sea of bitterness. Chapter 2504 The Truth of the Ancient Battle. Open black lens bracket full order close black lens bracket. There shouldn't be many ancient imaginary stones in the sea of ancient bitterness. I'm afraid it will take a long time to breed a new batch of immemorial imaginary stones. Yi Tian thought to himself. So, he left the ancient sea of bitterness. In fact, in this period of time, he has already scrapped 10 duplicate bodies, and this duplicate body is about to be scrapped. Coming out of the primordial bitter sea, after he transferred the primordial void stone, he annihilated the cloned body that was about to be scrapped. At any time, he took all the ancient imaginary stones to the Zhuang Mountain. Void Mountain. Yi Tian came here again. Little guy, you are here again so soon, don't waste the opportunity to use the Void Emperor token. The Void Emperor Lord reminded after seeing Yi Tian. Master of the Void Emperor, I have found enough ancient void stones. Yi Tian waved his hand, 327, and a pile of ancient imaginary stones appeared. So many ancient imaginary stones. The Lord of the Void Emperor was shocked. It was the first time he saw that Tianzu brought so many ancient imaginary stones to hand in the quest. The Lord of the Void Emperor, there are a total of 1,600 ancient imaginary stones. Yi Tian said, okay, I'll give you 16,000 drops of the finest ancient roots. The Lord of the Void Emperor. Wow, 16,000 drops of Taiku roots fell into Yi Tian's hands. Sure enough, it's the best ancient roots. Yi Tian had also obtained the primordial root marrow before, but it was just an ordinary primordial root marrow, which was incomparable with these ancient roots. Many thanks, Lord of the Void Emperor. After Yi Tian put away the ancient roots, he said, excuse me, Lord of the Void Emperor, do you have any other tasks? Of course there is, the Lord of the Void Emperor said. For example, if you help me kill the Lord of Ghost Cranes, if you can do it, everything I have is yours. Lord of Ghost Cranes. Even if Yi Tian hadn't heard of it, he knew that this was a bone transformation realm heavenly ancestor, maybe even the one who killed the Lord of the Void Emperor. Even the Lord of the Void Emperor was severely injured by the other party and fell. He is looking for him now, isn't he looking for death? Therefore, it is impossible for him to take up this task. Master of the Void Emperor, I can't complete this task, are there other tasks? Yi Tian asked. The Lord of the Void Emperor nodded, naturally, there are other tasks. These task lists are all for you. If you complete them, come to me. Some task lists turned into a scroll and floated in front of Yi Tian. Yi Tian took the scroll and left here directly. Dark Sea. Yi Tian picked up this scroll and studied these tasks seriously. Kill the disciples of Hunkshu Cave, and each time you kill one, you can go to receive the reward with the body of the disciple of Hunkshu Cave. Collect an ancient life flower. Collect the Bloodtooth Dragon Stone. Yi Tian looked at these tasks with a puzzled look on his face, he didn't know the resources above. Moreover, he had never heard of the place where the Hunkshu Cave was. Maybe Haifeng Tianzu knows. So, he went to Haifeng Tianzu. Haifeng Tianzu, do you know the Hunkshu Cave? Yi Tian asked. Hunkshu Cave, I seem to have heard of it. Haifeng Tianzu thought back and said, I remember, the Hunkshu Cave is not actually the power of our territorial sea boundary gap, but from a top boundary gap. The power of the top boundary seems to be called the Hunhi boundary. You should know this name from the Lord of the Void Emperor. At the beginning, the Lord of the Void Emperor went to the boundary of the Hunhi River, and soon after he came out, he fell. Is the powerhouse of the Hunhe boundary seam very powerful? Yi Tian asked. Hunhe boundary seam is very powerful. Haifeng Tianzu said solemnly. This boundary seam is somewhat similar to the structure of our territorial sea, and there are many powerful bone transitions in it, and there are more like ancient geniuses. Come up from the personality. It is said that the personality of the Hunhe boundary seam should be higher than the territorial sea fisher. Therefore, the creatures of our territorial sea boundary seam will not be suppressed by their strength. On the contrary, the creatures in the Hunhe boundary seam will enter our territorial sea boundary gap. It will suppress cultivation. Can the creatures in the boundary seam of the Hun River still enter the boundary seam of our territorial sea? Yi Tian was surprised. Naturally it is possible, Haifeng Tianzu said with emotion. You have not experienced this thing yet. The creatures in the seams of our territorial sea can enter the seams one by one. For example, the land of Longhai, we can also enter. But in the future one day, the creatures in the land of Longhai can also enter us. For example, you can see the entrance of the crack into the land of Longhai. We could see it last time, but the creatures in the land of Longhai couldn't. Next time, such a crack entrance will appear, we can't see it, but after they see it, they can come in. Quote. Doesn't the forces of the Hunhe Jiejiao break into us to break out a war? Yi Tian asked. Yeah, a war has to break out. Haifeng Tianzu showed a trace of fear. For example, the ancient war is the battle of the world seam. Otherwise, do you think it is because of the ancient golden tree? That is just the ancient war. It was just a small battle. I still remember in the primordial age, the entrances to the three top seams appeared together, and they all led to us in one direction. One of the three top border seams came to the bone transformation realm powerhouse, and a large number of Taiku level 9 blood changes came. In that battle, the ancient race was the main force, and we practitioners were the auxiliary. As you can see, the ancient race was beaten to the point of extinction, and our practitioners rose. The truth of the ancient war turned out to be. Yi Tian was shocked. He didn't know this secret at all before, but now he knows this secret from Haifeng Tianzu. Hunkshu Cave is the strength of the Hunhe boundary seam. What strength is it? Yi Tian was very curious. Haifeng Tianzu said, I don't know much. It seems that there are 3 bone transformation realm Tianzu, and there are more than 10 immemorial geniuses, but the data from the immemorial period at that time, what is the current situation of 5.9, I also not sure, maybe it will be destroyed. Thank you Haifeng Tianzu for your pointer. Yi Tian thanked. Then, he left. Knowing that the power of the top boundary seam can break into the territorial sea boundary seam, his pressure suddenly increased. Maybe this kind of thing will happen soon. At that time, he is not strong enough, and I am afraid that he will not be able to protect the human race. Therefore, he must improve his strength as soon as possible. Ignoring the mission of the Lord of the Void Emperor first, you have to refine those high-quality ancient roots and temper your heart. If you can reach the pinnacle of the 8 blood changes, you can go to the 9 blood changes. Quote. Yi Tian muttered. In the years that followed, he began to refine these first-class primordial roots and temper his heart with all his might. G. Chapter 2505 The Grey-White Giant Bear ran to the seam of the territorial sea. With the continuous refining of the ancient roots, Yi Tian's heart became stronger and stronger. This time, there are more high-quality primordial roots, and there is a real hope that my heart will be tempered to the pinnacle of 8 blood transformations. Yi Tian murmured. Therefore, he has been retreating and refining the superior immemorial roots. Time flies, and long years have passed. Yi Tian's heart was tempered little by little, and it has been continuously improved from the 80% tempered at the beginning. 85%, 90%. Gradually, Yi Tian tempered his heart to a level of 99.99%, that is, tempered to the extreme of 8 blood changes. At this time, he has fallen into a bottleneck. If he breaks the bottleneck, he can break through to the 9 blood changes. I can feel the existence of the bottleneck. It doesn't seem that it is difficult to break through. It should be related to my possession of the ancient ancestors. If I copy a few more ancient ancestors, maybe I can easily break through the bottleneck and become the ancient ancestor of the 9 blood changes. Level genius, Yi Tian murmured. Territorial sea boundary seam, White Shadow Territory. On this day, 29 powerful blood-changing creatures appeared here, killing the creatures when they saw them. For a time, many blood-change creatures were killed, and resources were also robbed. Even a lot of white shadows were injured tragically, and one of the 7 blood-change realm white shadows tried to attack them, but also fell and died. Yu Hen was very troubled when he heard the news. What is the origin of these blood-changing creatures? Moon Mark asked. A white image below said, Patriarch, these blood-changing creatures are a bit strange. It seems that their intelligence is not very high, and their aura is different from the blood-changing creatures in the seam of the territorial sea. I don't know where they came from. Back away for now, don't collide with them. Moon Mark ordered. There is no way to quit the clan, because these blood-changing creatures are killing everywhere, and they are not opponents. Once those blood-changing creatures are killed here, they are finished. Therefore, they can only choose to give up here. Whoa whoa whoa. A large number of Bai Yingxiang clan prepared to migrate and left their clan. For the White Shadow clan, these new blood-changing creatures are a great threat, but they didn't expect more dangerous ones to come. On the migration road, the Bai Yingxiang clan was traveling on the road, and suddenly a blood-colored giant beast appeared in front, and its terrifying aura made all the Bai Yingxiang despair. Boom! This giant beast opened its mouth, and the dense white image was swallowed by it. The creature of the 9 blood changes. Moon Hen was so frightened that he ran away. The other white images are also running away. Who cares about the clan? In the blink of an eye, all the white shadows were fleeing, but most of the white shadows were eaten. Such scenes are being staged in many places, and many blood transformation races have suffered heavy losses. Taishuanhai, the territory of the human race. At this time, some blood-changing creatures also invaded here, but before they entered the Taishuan Sea, they were easily killed by Yi Tian. How come the breath of these blood-changing creatures is a bit like the creatures of the Longhai ruins? Yi Tian wondered. Suddenly, he thought of what Haifeng Tianzu said. Could it be that there is a crack entrance in the ruins of the Dragon Sea, where the creatures can enter the seam of the territorial sea? If this is the case, some weak races and forces will be in trouble. As for the crisis, that does not exist. The character of the ruins of the Dragon Sea is not as good as that of the territorial sea. They entered the ruins of the Dragon Sea, and their strength was suppressed very much. Only then did they feel that the ruins of the Dragon Sea was terrible, and even the existence of the bone transformation did not dare to easily step into the ruins of the Dragon Sea. Ruins. However, if the creatures of the ruins of Longhai enter the seam of the territorial sea, it is not scary. Basically, the creatures there come here, there is no threat, and many creatures can only exert the strength of ordinary blood-changing creatures. Those creatures that are comparable to the immemorial geniuses of the 9 blood transformations may only be equivalent to the ordinary 9 blood transformations. Of course, like the primordial golden monkey he saw at the beginning, possessing the golden light of primordial ancestral fortune, its true strength is estimated to have reached the bone transformation realm. If such an ancient golden monkey entered the seam of the territorial sea, it would definitely be a real bone transformation. Dark Sea. Many experts in the blood transformation realm also received the information and confirmed one thing, that is, the creatures of the Longhai ruins broke into the seam of the territorial sea. However, they don't care. After all, no matter how the creatures in the ruins of the Dragon Sea are, there is no way they can threaten the Dark Sea. Of course, if the forces under the Dark Sea came to ask for help, they would definitely help. At the beginning, the creatures of the ruins of the Dragon Sea did cause a lot of slaughter, but after many forces in the territorial sea and the seam reacted, they easily slaughtered these creatures of the ruins of the Dragon Sea. But on this day, a creature that was comparable to the 9-time primordial genius appeared and killed an 8-time blood-transforming primordial genius, shaking the entire territorial sea. Link didn't want to see the situation, and the sect dispatched a statue 9 times. Ao Heng, Haifeng Tianzu, and Mingjian Tianzu were all dispatched. After Yi Tian heard the news, he also prepared to go over to watch the excitement. Somewhere in the territorial sea, Ao Heng Tianzu was the first to encounter each other, and the two sides fought. Afterwards, Mingjian Tianzu and the others also took action. The immemorial geniuses of the 9 blood transformations besieged the immemorial genius creatures of the 9 blood transformations. Now, Yi Tian stood watching from a distance. It's actually this creature. Yi Tian recognized it. The creature that was fighting against the immemorial geniuses of the 9 blood transformation realm was the gray and white giant bear. At the beginning, he was killed many times by the gray-white giant bear at the ruins of the Dragon Sea. In the end, he was able to avoid being attacked by copying the weak gray-white giant bear, thus taking away the flowers that could upgrade the copying talent. In the ruins of Longhai, the gray-white giant bear's strength is comparable to that of bone transformation. But in the territorial sea boundary seam, its strength can only be equivalent to the 9 blood-changing creatures of the ancient genius level. However, the physical body of this gray-white giant bear is indeed very terrifying, and its defense is too high. It is estimated that it has eaten too many resources to enhance its physical body at the ruins of the Dragon Sea. Therefore, it easily resisted the attack of the underworld sword heavenly ancestor. Unexpected, a figure appeared here, letting Mingjian Tianzu and the others withdraw one by one. Gray-white giant bear, I didn't expect you to run to the seam of our territorial sea, it's just courting death. This figure sneered. When I entered the ruins of Longhai, you hurt me, but now you will die for me. Boom, this figure punched out, directly cracking the body of the gray-white giant bear. Boom boom boom, one punch after another, dozens of punches were fired in a short period of time. And at this time, the gray and white giant bear has been completely beaten into countless pieces. Chapter 2506 The Opening of the Hunhi Boundary. Bone Transformation. Yi Tian was surprised, he didn't expect that there would be a bone change this time. However, he did not know who this bone transformation realm was. Because the distance is relatively far, the scope of copying talent cannot be covered there. Therefore, there is no way for him to know the name of the other party by copying talent. After killing the gray and white giant bear, the bone transformation realm left. Swish, Yi Tian came to Haifeng Tianzu and asked curiously, Haifeng Tianzu, who is this bone transformation realm existence? The Lord of the Wind Fang. Haifeng Tianzu said, the leader of the top hegemonic force, Luan Fenghai, who broke through the bone transformation realm at the end of the ancient era, is also a master who will pay back, so don't provoke him. Yi Tian nodded. Through the action of the Lord of Wind Fang, he also saw the strength of the bone transformation realm. This gray-white giant bear's defense could not be broken even by several immemorial geniuses of the nine-blood transformation realm. As a result, it cracked in the hand of the Lord of Wind Fang, and was killed in the breath. After the gray-white giant bear was killed, these 9-time blood change level primordial level geniuses left. Years go by, the creatures in the ruins of the Dragon Sea were almost killed, but more killings were caused. Many weak races were wiped out, but the powerful races did nothing. Of course, some weak territorial waters have also suffered. Although these creatures will be suppressed when they enter the territorial waters, the weak territorial waters will not be able to deal with them. Wanlong's territorial waters were also invaded, but Yi Tian was the first to take action, thus destroying the attacking creatures. But from the beginning to the end, the real bone transformation creature in the ruins of Longhai did not take action, such as the ancient golden monkey. They also know that the territorial sea boundary seam is very strong, so they dare not break into the territorial sea boundary seam casually, otherwise there will be a risk of falling. It was the gray and white giant bear who foolishly broke in and lost his life. Years passed, and suddenly one day, the creatures in the Longhai ruins completely disappeared. Obviously, the entrance to the crack disappeared, and all these creatures were removed. For the top hegemonic forces, this incident is just a small episode, and it is not worthy of attention. If a top boundary place like the Hunhi boundary seam opens a channel to enter the territorial sea boundary seam, it will be a real disaster, and it will lead to the battle of the ancient times if you are not careful. Dark Sea. Yi Tian and Haifeng Tianzu sat down drinking and chatting again. At this time, Haifeng Tianzu revealed an intelligence report. Endless Tianzu, you have to pay attention, in the recent years, there may be openings of boundary gaps one after another. One after another, there will be the opening of the boundary seam. Yi Tian frowned, why? This is a kind of law. Haifeng Tianzu guessed. If a single boundary seam is opened, there is no problem. But this time the Longhai ruins are opened, and then opened in the opposite direction, which shows that the territorial sea boundary seam is opened. The barrier with the boundary gap is in an active period. During the active period, any boundary gap may be opened. Even places like the Hunhi boundary gap may be opened. If the boundary seams of the Hunhi River are all opened, wouldn't it be a big trouble? Yi Tian said, yeah. Haifeng Tianzu nodded, it will indeed be very troublesome, but as long as the Hunhi boundary seam does not open the entrance to the crack leading to us, there will be no problem, but I am afraid that they will also open the entrance to us, then we are the one that was invaded. Haifeng Tianzu naturally didn't want to encounter the powerhouses of the Hunhi boundary seam. The Hunhi boundary seam was really powerful, and the overall strength was much stronger than the territorial sea boundary seam, because he had a higher personality. At the beginning of the primordial war, Hunhi GG and the other two top GG only came to a small number of strong people, and they were even suppressed in strength. Jing Tianzu has lost many people. Until now, the seam of the territorial sea has not recovered its vitality. It was also after the battle of the ancient times that many ancient treasures were smashed, resulting in the lack of many resources in the seam of the territorial sea, and it was difficult to give birth to the existence of bone transformation. Otherwise, the territorial sea boundary seam in the ancient times really does not look down on the boundary seam like the Longhai ruins. Knowing that the Hunhai boundary seam may be opened at any time, Yi Tian is extremely eager to improve his strength. In a short period of time, he couldn't break through to the 9 blood changes, so he tried his best to comprehend the ancient inscriptions, create the top ancient bone technique, and make as many bones in his body undergo bone transformation as much as possible. Before you know it, another long time has passed. This day, the worst thing happened. The Hunhai boundary seam is open. The first time, the Lord of Darkness summoned the high-level officials of the Dark Sea to start a meeting. At the meeting, the Lord of Darkness said very seriously, "The Hunhai boundary seam is open. I hope you will not enter the Hunhai boundary seam. The personality of the Hunhai boundary seam is higher than ours, and the number of bone transformations there is also higher than ours. There are more immemorial geniuses, so I won't talk about it. If you enter the Hunhai boundary seam, the possibility of being discovered is too great. What's more, our territorial sea boundary seam and Hunhai boundary seam have hatred, so once you enter, the chances of being killed are too high. Of course, the right to choose is in your hands, and if you are determined to go, I will not stop it." Haifeng Tianzu said. "The Lord of Darkness is right. In order to save his life, it is better not to go." The Lord of Darkness continued. "Once the entrance to the boundary of the Hunhai River is closed, in order to prevent the entrance to the boundary of the Hunhai River from the boundary of our territorial sea, the boundary of the Hunhai River will definitely invade at that time. Therefore, you better always stay in the Dark Sea for now. At least with me, the Dark Sea is a little safer." "Lord of Darkness, we understand." One by one the high-level Dark Sea responded. Soon, the meeting was over. After the meeting, Well Zhao, go to the entrance to the front seam. Others dare not go to the seam of Hunhai, but he is not afraid. Anyway, it is a copy of the body, even if it falls, it doesn't matter. And Hunhai Jeju has a higher personality and stronger strength, and it is possible to encounter better opportunities when you go there. When Yi Tian came to the entrance of the Hunhai boundary seam, there were not many heavenly ancestors here, and most of them came to watch the fun, and would not go to the Hunhai boundary seam at all. "Endless heavenly ancestor, do you have to enter the boundary of the Hunhai River?" An ancestor asked. "Yes," Yi Tian said lightly. "Endless heavenly ancestor, be careful, the boundary seam of the Hunhai River is too dangerous." The heavenly ancestor advised. "I know." Yi Tian didn't say much. Soon, the crack entrance stabilized. Yi Tian escaped directly into the entrance of the crack and entered the crack of the Hun River. Single G. Chapter 2507 The Boundary of the Hunhai River, the Second Ancient Ancestral Fu. Open black lens bracket seeking full order close black lens bracket. Hunhai boundary seam. Come in. Yi Tian appeared on a sea area and immediately hid his breath. The strength is not suppressed, the personality here is indeed higher. Yi Tian murmured. He did not move immediately, but used the copy talent to investigate the surrounding situation for the first time. Soon, he detected some creatures in this sea area. This sea area should be the ordinary sea area of the Hunhai boundary sea, because the creatures here are not strong. There are a lot of them, but most of them are weak. Wow, Yi Tian shuttled slowly, not too fast. Before long, he sensed a powerful blood-changing creature. 8 blood changes creatures. This cultivation base is just in the replicable stage. So, he shot directly. The ancient blood spear. Yi Tian pierced through the opponent's body with one blow, killing the opponent instantly. After all, an ordinary 8-time blood-changing creature is like an ant in the eyes of an ancient genius like him. After killing the opponent, he copied the opponent's body and used the opponent's identity to inquire about news in this sea area. Soon, the body of the 8 times blood-changing creature was successfully copied. It's done, then let this 8 times blood-changed creature go to inquire about the information, and then decide the following plan after understanding the information. Yi Tian planned. The purpose of his 327 entering the boundary of the Hunhai River was to find treasures and opportunities, so he naturally had to plan carefully. Yi Tian kept searching and exploring, and soon came to an ancient giant city in this sea area. Crash to the sea city. There are no cultivators in this city, and there are cultivators at the boundary of the Hunhai River, but they have had a miserable life. However, the blood-changing creatures at the boundary of the Hunhai River have also formed a cultivation civilization system similar to the practitioners, and are not subject to racial constraints. After entering the falling sea city, Yi Tian met many so-called friends. These blood-changing creatures should know the original owner of this body. Fortunately, Yi Tian knew their names through copying talent, so he just fooled them and didn't talk too much. In the years that followed, he would inquire about information in the city of Falling Sea. Gradually, he became more and more aware of this place. For example, this sea area is the Chaos Sea, which is a resource-poor area. There are not many strong people here, but there are many blood-changing creatures. The overlord of the Chaos Sea is the bone-shifting creature, the primordial Chaos Dragon. However, this primordial Chaos Dragon has been in a deep sleep for a long time, so as long as the battle of bone transformation does not break out in the Chaos Sea, it will hardly be awakened. The city of Falling Sea was built by the Chaos Dragon clan of the primordial Chaos Dragon, in order to manage the Chaos Sea well. Any creature that trades here needs to pay a fee, so the Chaos Dragon clan lives very comfortably by relying on the Falling Sea city. In addition, with the support of the ancient ancestor of the bone transformation realm, as long as they do not provoke the existence of the bone transformation realm, they will hardly have any trouble. The primordial Chaos Dragon. After Yi Tian knew about the existence of this bone transformation realm, he wondered if the other party would have an ancient ancestral gift. Maybe you can try to contact this primordial Chaos Dragon. After some inquiries, Yi Tian also knew the place where the primordial Chaos Dragon slept, the primordial Dragon Sea Mountains. This place is located somewhere in the subterranean sea vein of the Chaos Sea, and no one dares to go there to disturb, unless it is courting death. Yi Tian came here very quickly, but he came here with a copy of an ordinary blood transformation creature. Soon, he approached the Taiku Longhai Mountains. Copy talent. Yi Tian urged the duplication talent to search for the location of the primordial Chaos Dragon. Soon, he sensed the primordial Chaos Dragon. Because his copy body is too weak, the primordial Chaos Dragon will not wake up at all. Sure enough, there is an ancient ancestor. Yi Tian was pleasantly surprised. Ancestral Fu, Dragon Scale. This is obviously a defense-type ancient-level ancestral gift. Once copied and merged, it should be easy for him to practice defense-type ancient techniques. After copying, Yi Tian left. Then, he annihilated the replica body. Fusion of Ancient Ancestors CJFJ Dragon Scales. Yi Tian quickly integrated this ancient ancestor. At this time, he felt that his potential foundation had been improved again, and even the bottleneck from the 8 blood changes to the 9 blood changes was relaxed. If you find 1 or 2 more ancient ancestors, and then copy and merge, it is estimated that you can easily break the bottleneck and become the ancestor of the 9 blood changes. 1. Yi Tian muttered. He couldn't stay at the boundary of the Hunhe River for a long time, so it was unrealistic to mix into a certain major force to slowly cultivate. If Hunkiji is together with the collar, no matter how powerful he is to improve the cloned body here, it will be meaningless. It is impossible for him to abandon his real body and copy his body, and he will be completely smothered in the Hunhe realm in the future. I have to take advantage of this period of being excluded to get more resources. Yi Tian decided to go to another area of the Hunhe boundary sea, the Sea of Ruins. Hunkshu Sea is the site where Hunkshu Cave is located. There are many resources there, and in addition to Hunkshu Cave, the top hegemony level force, there are many blood-changing realm races attached to Hunkshu Cave. He is going to go to the Sea of Ruins to plunder the resources of those bloody transition races, so that he can quickly accumulate wealth. Just go to the Chaos Sea, there is no future in the Chaos Sea, the resources here are too poor. Yi Tian muttered. Wow. Yi Tian moved quickly as this 8 times blood-changing creature and headed to the Sea of Ruins. After a while, the Sea of Chaos has arrived. The energy of the Sea of Ruins far exceeds that of the Chaos Sea, and the blood-changing creatures here are also more powerful. It is easy to see 8 blood changes and 9 blood change creatures. Moreover, at every turn, you will encounter a world-breaking genius and occasionally see an ancient genius. After Yi Tian came to the Sea of Ruins, he kept a low profile at first, but quickly found a target. Fire Ancient Clan. This blood transformation race is not weak, and the strongest is a world-breaking genius with 8 blood transformations, occupying a very precious resource, the Mixed Ruins Stone Ore Vein. This kind of Mixed Ruins Stone Vein is very precious, and the existence of bone metamorphosis can extract the Mixed Ruins liquid from it. Therefore, the Huogu people are responsible for mining the Mixed Ruins stone veins and supplying them to the Mixed Ruins caves, so that a small amount of the Mixed Ruins liquid can be obtained. Relying on the Mixed Ruins liquid, there are quite a few ordinary 8-time blood change creatures of the Fire Ancient Clan. But Yi Tian killed a Fire Ancient Clan creature 7 times and obtained a drop of Mixed Ruins liquid, only then did he realize that the Mixed Ruins liquid was very helpful to cultivators. I'm afraid that after I break through to the 9 blood changes, the Mixed Ruins liquid can temper my heart, and my heart can be tempered to the extreme of the 9 blood changes. Yi Tian said excitedly. Therefore, he is ready to attack the Fire Ancient tribe. Chapter 2508 Mixed Ruins Stone, get it. Open black lens bracket full order close black lens bracket. The Huogu people are very powerful, they not only have a world-breaking genius with 8 blood transitions, but also many 8 blood transitions. If it weren't for the Hunkshu cave restricting resources suitable for 8 blood change creatures to impact 9 blood change creatures, the Huogu tribe would definitely be able to give birth to 9 blood change creatures. In other words, the mixed ruins liquid is not suitable for the Huogu people to impact the 9 blood transitions, so there are no large restrictions, but it does not give too much. And the Huogu people themselves can't extract the mixed ruins liquid from the mixed ruins stone, otherwise they can extract a large amount of it themselves. Yi Tian only snatched the mixed ruins stone. As long as he snatched the mixed ruins stone, he can take it back to the Lord of Darkness to extract the mixed ruins liquid, then he can get a lot of mixed ruins liquid. Even if the Huogu people hand in the mixed ruins stones, it is impossible to turn in all the mixed ruins stones. They must have hidden a lot of them. I just need to find the treasure house of the mixed ruins stones, and then I will snatch them. That's it. Yi Tian thought to himself. So, he secretly killed a Huogu clan blood change creature, and then copied the opponent's body and mixed into the Huogu clan. What he killed was an 8 times blood changing creature, and it was his real body copying the body shot, otherwise he couldn't kill it. The Fire Ancient clan of the 8th blood transformation realm is already a high-level person, so they have the authority to know many secrets. After only a while, he inquired about the location of the treasure house. Of course, once the shot is taken, the Fire Ancient clan will definitely report it, and it is estimated that it will attract the immemorial geniuses of the 9 blood changes in the Hunkshu cave. Therefore, he had to let other duplicate bodies respond, sacrificing his real body to duplicate his body. Otherwise, even if he stole the mixed ruins stone, he wouldn't be able to take it with him. This day, Yi Tian was finally ready to shoot. Fire Ancient Domain. This is a treasure land of the Huogu people, outsiders are not allowed to enter, and this is also the location of the treasure house, and the mixed ruins stone is hidden here. Even the high-level people do not know how many mixed ruins stones are stored here, perhaps only the world-breaking genius of the Fire Ancient clan knows. In order to protect this treasure land, a large number of Huogu tribesmen have been stationed here for a long time, and some tribesmen have been exchanged from time to time, so there has been no incident here. Yi Tian's Huogu clan cloned his body to apply for guarding here, and after getting approval, he came to the Huogu region to guard it on this day. There are a large number of magic circles in the ancient fire area, which can only be easily destroyed from the inside, so that you can quickly break into the treasure house and save time for yourself. So, this Huogu clan replica body also had to be sacrificed. Soon, the Huogu clan cloned their bodies and settled in the Huogu domain, and soon began to act. Boom! The Fire Ancients copied their bodies and attacked the circle from the inside. Exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark. The formations collapsed everywhere, and this scene completely stunned the other Huogu clansmen. Huo 2, you are crazy. One by one the ancient fire race roared. However, Yi Tian, the Fire Ancient clan's cloned body, continued to destroy the magic circle regardless of his body. Seeing this, the other Huogu tribesmen besieged Yi Tian and wanted to take his duplicate body. At this time, Yi Tian's true copy body appeared. The Ancient Blood Spear, Ancient God and Demon Fist. 2 Ancient Move. Yi Tian broke out a series of ancient techniques, instantly killing the Fire Ancients. Then, he exploded with all his strength, and slammed the remaining magic circles in the treasure house with one blow. The magic circle here is indeed very good. It is possible that the 9-time blood transfiguration realm immemorial genius in the Hunkshu cave was invited to arrange it, so it is very strong. If it wasn't for his internal damage, it would really take a lot of time to break into this place. Soon, click, the last layer of the magic circle was torn apart. After that, he quickly broke into the treasure house. So many treasures. Yi Tian was shocked by the wealth of the Huogu people. If it weren't for the suppression of the Hunkshu cave, relying on these resources, the Fire Ancient clan would be able to take off. As expected of the Hunhi boundary seam, there are really many resources. Yi Tian sighed. In addition to other resources, there are the mixed ruins stones piled up into hills. This is probably the accumulation of countless years of the Huogu people, and even the mixed ruins caves are not known. Receive, receive, all received. Yi Tian took away all the resources here and stored them in a void ball. Then, he quickly fled. As for the Huogu clan's copying body, it is responsible for breaking the back, even if it can't be blocked for long, but a little delay will suffice. Soon, the Huogu clan's large force came and was intercepted by the Huogu clan's cloned body, but this cloned body soon perished. At the same time, the Huogu people also asked for help in the Hongshu cave. Somewhere in the Sea of Confusion, Yi Tian's other clone body met with the real clone body, took away the void ball, and then flew away slowly in the other direction. However, the real copy body continued to flee, attracting the attention of the Huogu people in the Hongshu cave. Katakana middle dot for flowers. Soon, this replica body was discovered. Mixed cave. A 9-time blood change level ancient level genius, Shuiyuan Tianzu received a message from the Huogu people and learned that an 8-time blood change level ancient level genius had invaded the Huogu tribe, and he was not the Tianzu of the Sea of Mixed Ruins. Even the breath is a little weird, out of tune with heaven and earth. It's incompatible with heaven and earth. Could it be the ancestor of the territorial sea boundary gap? It was mentioned recently that there may be a Tianzu from the territorial sea boundary gap breaking into the Hunhe boundary gap, and it seems that it really appeared. Shuiyuan Tianzu murmured. If the bone transformation realm existed, he would not dare to provoke it. However, a mere 8-time blood change level immemorial genius dared to invade the racial forces under the command of the Hongshu cave. Then, he immediately set off from the Hongshu cave and went after Yi Tian. Somewhere in the Sea of Confusion, when Yi Tian's real body copy body was about to escape from the Sea of Mixed Ruins, a genius of the immemorial rank of the 9 times blood transformation stopped Yi Tian. Blood Abyss Heavenly Ancestor. Yi Tian used the copy talent to investigate, and learned the opponent's face from the opponent's talent. What surprised him even more was that this Shuiyuan Heavenly Ancestor also had an ancient ancestral gift. Obviously, the blood transformation realm race that the Blood Abyss Heavenly Ancestor came from must be extremely powerful. Ancestral Fu, blood. In an instant, the two sides fought. Puff. The opponent used a blood hand type immemorial technique, which penetrated Yi Tian's immemorial golden mask with one blow, directly piercing Yi Tian's body. Although one blow did not kill him, but soon Yi Tian couldn't bear it and was directly blown up. Hey, didn't you say that you stole the treasure? Why is there nothing? Shuiyuan Tianzu was puzzled. However, he still sent a message to the Fire Ancient clan, saying that the enemy had been killed by him. At this time, the Huogu clan's patriarch, the world-breaking genius Huo Huang asked Shuiyuan Tianzu, Master Shuiyuan Tianzu, can you return some of the resources that the enemy stole to us, and the rest will be regarded as filial piety to the Blood Lord Yuan Tianzu. I didn't find your treasure, it must have been thrown away by him, you can find it along the way. Shuiyuan Tianzu said. He also looked for it along the way, but could not find it, so there was nothing he could do. But when Huo Huang heard it, he didn't think so. Shuiyuan Tianzu, you are too greedy, so many treasures and resources, our Huogu tribe's countless years of accumulation, are all greedy for you. Huo Huang is extremely angry corpse. Chapter 2509 Sunfish Tears. Open black lens bracket full order close black lens bracket. If Shuiyuan Tianzu knew Huo Huang's anger, he would definitely kill him. He really didn't get any benefits, and even helped the Huogu people to kill the enemy, but he was also resented. But no one would have thought that Yi Tian had other copying bodies to respond, and wrongly underestimated Yi Tian's means. Yi Tian took a while and detoured a lot before leaving the Sea of Ruins. After leaving the Sea of Ruins, he handed over the ruin stone and other treasure resources to another real body clone. This real copy body only accepts treasure resources and will never shoot. Therefore, even if all other duplicate bodies fall, it will not affect this duplicate body. This time the harvest is very big. The Huogu people have accumulated countless years, they are afraid they are going crazy. Yi Tian said with a smile. Then, he merged the blood of the ancient ancestors copied from the blood, 327, Yuan Tianzu. Soon, the fusion is done. The bottleneck between the 8 blood transitions and the 9 blood transitions has loosened again. If you copy an ancient ancestor, you should be able to easily break the bottleneck. Yi Tian estimated. Then, he continued to inquire about the information, preparing to carry out the second looting plan. Soon, he has a new goal. Sunfish Clan. The strength of the Sunfish Clan is even stronger than that of the Huogu clan, possessing a world-breaking genius with 9 blood transitions and an ancient genius with 8 blood transitions. It is difficult for Yi Tian to contend against the entire Sunfish Clan by himself, but he also does not need to contend against the Sunfish Clan, his goal is only the resources of the Sunfish Clan. According to his understanding, the Sunfish clan is very special. The tears of this clan are a kind of treasure, and have special effects on other blood changes. Because of this, the Sunfish clan used to be a captive race. Later, a Sunfish clan genius joined the Hunkshu cave, and the entire Sunfish clan got the blessing of the Hunkshu cave, and only then could it rise in the Hunkshu sea. And the Sunfish clan genius who joined the Hunkshu cave was the immemorial genius of the 8th blood transformation realm. Of course, Hunkshu cave blesses the Sunfish clan, not only because of the genius, but after the Sunfish clan develops, they can get more Sunfish tears. The more powerful the Sunfish tears, the better the effect. Yi Tian also bought a drop of Sunfish tears, and found that it can also temper a practitioner's heart, and the effect is surprisingly good. The fish tears of the Sunfish in the 8 blood transitions can probably help temper the heart of the ancient geniuses in the 9 blood transitions. Certainly, Yi Tian can also snatch a large number of Sunfish tears to cultivate the human race, so that the human race will continue to give birth to many powerful blood transformation practitioners. This is also the reason why he has ideas about Sunfish tears. The primordial level genius of the Sunfish clan has been staying in the Hunkshu cave for the entire time, and he doesn't need to care about it. But he can't be entangled by the genius of the 9 times blood-changing realm. I don't know his strength. If some of his immeasurable bones complete the bone transformation, it will not be weak. Yi Tian thought to himself. Afterwards, he also mixed into the Sunfish clan in the same way. After mixing with the Sunfish clan, he learned that the Sunfish tears of the Sunfish beads are stored at the bottom of the Sun Lake. Since the Sunfish tribe regularly contributes the Sunfish tears to the Hunkshu cave and sells them, the Sunfish tears are easily accessible. Moreover, the Sunfish clan has regulations. Each clan must give birth to the Sunfish tears on a regular basis and hand it over to the clan, in order to obtain the blessing and cultivation of the clan. Therefore, there are definitely a lot of Sunfish tears in the Sunfish clan. This day, Yi Tian mixed in with the guards of the Sunfish clan and entered Sun Lake. At this time, he saw the dense cyan light spots at the bottom of Sun Lake, and each cyan light spot was a pool of tears for Sunfish. The number of tears of the Sunfish is really large. Yi Tian was pleasantly surprised. Of course, the tears of the Sunfish are also divided into grades, and the highest here is the tears of the Sunfish that flowed out of the Sunfish in the 8 times of blood transformation. As for the tears of the Sunfish that flowed out of the 9 blood changes, they are not preserved here. Yi Tian waited for some years, and after confirming that there was no problem, he started directly. Boom! The formations were destroyed by Yi Tian. Afterwards, his cloned body started working. Bang bang bang! A statue of a Sunfish was blown up by him. Then, he broke into the place where the tears of the Sunfish were stored. Receive, receive, take it again. Yi Tian put away the most valuable Sunfish tears, but every Sunfish tears pond has a magic circle, and it takes an instant to break open. Therefore, after he collected a batch of Sunfish tears, time passed for a while. Must have to go. He knew that if he didn't leave, it would not be easy to leave, and he would definitely be held back. Swish! Yi Tian used Taiku to move his body and quickly escaped. Dare to snatch the tears of my clan's Taiyu. Yin Kong, a genius of the Sunfish clan's 9 blood transformation realm breaking realm, came to know about it, and he also informed the Hunkshu cave. It's a pity that he couldn't stop Yi Tian, the speed was too slow. And Yi Tian still used the same method to transfer the Sunfish tears to another duplicate body, attracting firepower by himself. In the end, Hunkshu cave got angry this time, and directly dispatched 3 immemorial geniuses who had undergone 9 blood changes to surround and kill him. After all, the value of the Sunfish clan is much higher than that of the Huogu clan, so the Hunkshu cave naturally attaches great importance to it. Therefore, Yi Tian's real copy body did not escape, but before the arrival of the other party, he hid his aura and appearance and then exploded directly. Therefore, Hunkshu cave does not know Yi Tian's identity. However, after this time, the powerhouses of the Hunkshu cave were dispatched one by one, looking for something, and even the outsiders were checked one by one. Fortunately, Yi Tian copied the cloned body of a 5.9C native blood change creature in time, mixed into a small race, and then avoided the search. I can't do something like this again in a short time, the success rate is too low. Yi Tian muttered. This day, the existence of a bone transformation in the Hunkshu cave was dispatched. After searching in the Hunkshu sea for a long time, nothing was found, and this was the end. Then I won't snatch it in the Sea of Ruins. In the future, I will mainly look for the location of the bone-shifting creatures, and see if I can meet a few ancient ancestors. 1. Yi Tian planned. For example, a bone-transforming creature like the primordial chaos dragon, if he encounters it, he can obtain a primordial ancestral gift. In the following years, he would walk around, searching for the ancient ancestors in various areas of the Hunhi boundary. Finally, on this day, he found the third ancient level ancestral Fu. Chapter 2510 Breakthrough, 9 Blood Changes. Open black lens bracket seeking full order close black lens bracket. The boundary of the Hun River, the bank of the Hun River. This is the source of all the turbidity of the Hunhi boundary seam, and very few creatures come here. Yi Tian also came to have a look after knowing this place. As a result, before entering the bank of the Hun River, he encountered an incomparably terrifying bone transformation creature. Boom! A creature full of countless tentacles constantly devoured the filth on the banks of the Hun River. Yi Tian wanted to escape, but was swept away and swallowed by a tentacle of the opponent. Open black lens bracket Hunhi giant beast close black lens bracket. This is the other person's name. And Yi Tian's copy talent also detected an ancient level ancestral gift on the other side, Devour. Yi Tian copied the opponent's primordial ancestral Fu, and then the other copied bodies began to merge. Soon, the fusion of devouring primordial ancestors was completed. The shackles can be broken at any time. Yi Tian muttered. Territorial Sea Boundary Seam, Taishuan Sea. Yi Tian's true copy body began to hit the immortal ancient rank genius level 29 times in the blood transformation realm 29 times. Once he broke through, his strength would increase to an incomparably terrifying level. Click. The bottleneck was easily shattered by Yi Tian, his heart began to transform, and a large amount of resources were devoured and refined by him, prompting the rapid transformation of the heart. After that, boundless blood also began its 9th transformation. Years go by. Yi Tian's breath is getting stronger and stronger, and his body is getting more and more terrifying. A long time has passed, and Yi Tian's 9th blood change has finally been completed. Successful, I have broken through to the 9 blood changes. Yi Tian can feel that his strength has far surpassed before. After that, he used his real body to copy the body to practice both the ancient starlight technique and the ancient golden body technique, so that the imprint of the ancient technique was integrated into his body, making his body stronger again. Subsequently, he began to practice more ancient techniques, such as the primordial technique of phagocytosis, the primordial swallowing technique, and the primordial technique of the blood system, the primordial blood explosion technique and other primordial techniques. Since he has the corresponding ancient level ancestry, it is easy to practice. In addition, he also practiced other ancient techniques. Anyway, he had traded a huge amount of ancient gold blood from the Lord of Darkness, so he could use it to assist in the practice of ancient techniques. But for a while, he did not practice other ancient techniques so quickly. Hunhi boundary seam. Yi Tian continued to look for other primordial ancestral Fus. He could feel that his stay in the Hunhi realm was not long, so he had to find as many primordial ancestral Fus as possible. And just like that, another period of time passed. During this period, Yi Tian found a few more ancient ancestors, and after copying and merging, he raised his potential foundation again. It has to be said that the ancient ancestors of the Hunhi boundary seam are not too rare. If it is in the seam of the territorial sea, it is almost an extravagant hope to find the ancient ancestors. Anyway, he hasn't found the primordial level ancestry in the territorial sea boundary seam until now, but the territorial sea boundary must have the primordial level ancestry. However, those bone-shift existences are not easy to find. This day, the Hunhi boundary seam finally repelled Yi Tian. After being sown from the Hunhi Jia, Yi Tian immediately went to find the Lord of Darkness. Dark Sea. Yi Tian met the Lord of Darkness, and soon he saw the Lord of Darkness. Infinite Heavenly Ancestor, what's the matter with you? Asked the Lord of Darkness. The Lord of Darkness, I brought something back from the seam of the Hunhi River, and I need the Lord of Darkness to help extract it. After saying that, Yi Tian took out a part of the mixed ruin stone. Even if it is a part, its number is still extremely terrifying. The Lord of Darkness was shocked when he saw so many mixed ruin stones. Mixed ruin stone. He naturally knows the mixed ruin stones, which are the resources of the mixed ruin sea. He did not expect Yi Tian to get so many mixed ruin stones from the Hunhi boundary seam. If it was found, he would definitely not believe it. Because the forces of the Hunhi boundary seam also know the value of the mixed ruin stone, they must have occupied it long ago, and even the mixed ruins cave needs the mixed ruin stone. Could it be that you looted the ruined rock treasure house of a certain big power? The Lord of Darkness was surprised. Yes, Yi Tian nodded. The main energy of sound is actually dry, and it brings out Kungshu stone. I can help you extract the mixed liquid, but this is hard work, so I need to collect 30% of the mixed liquid. The Lord of Darkness said. It is good, Yi Tian agreed. 30% of the mixed ruins liquid is not too much. Like the mixed ruins cave that collects the mixed ruins stones of the Huogu people, only a little of the mixed ruins liquid is given to the Huogu people, and it is estimated that there may not be even 1%. This is also one of the reasons why the Huogu people are unwilling to offer all the mixed ruins stones. Wow, the Lord of Darkness collected these mixed ruins stones, and then announced the retreat. In fact, he went to extract the mixed ruins liquid. Taizan Hai, Yi Tian took out many low-grade sunfish tears and used them to cultivate the human race. Especially his son Yi Xingchen got more sunfish tears. In addition, he is also preparing to train his son to become an ancient genius. This time, he was going to give a primordial ancestor fu to his son, that is, a primordial ancestral fu, Xingchen. This was also a primordial ancestral fu that he could find easily, and it fit the path of his son very well. Therefore, he transferred 327 to his son Yi Xingchen. With this ancient-level ancestral gift, Yi Xingchen can easily practice the ancient techniques of the stars. Subsequently, Yi Xingchen chose an ancient technique, the ancient star spear. Sure enough, it didn't take long for Yi Xingchen to successfully practice the primordial star spear and become a primordial genius. Coupled with the large amount of sunfish tears that Yi Tian bestowed on him, his cultivation level also skyrocketed. Otherwise, Yi Xingchen would be able to become an ancient genius of the 7 blood changes. Certainly, Yi Tian is also refining a large number of taiku fish tears of the 8 blood change realm taiku fish to temper his heart. Although he has reached the 9 blood transformation realm, if he wants to impact the bone transformation realm, he has to temper his heart to the extreme of the 9 blood transformation realm. At the same time, Yi Tian is also comprehending the ancient inscriptions and creating more top ancient bone techniques. During this period of time, Yi Tian's strength was skyrocketing. This day, the Lord of Darkness informed Yi Tian that the extraction of the mixed ruin stones was completed. Swish, Yi Tian came to the Dark Sea and saw the Lord of Darkness again. Endless heavenly ancestor, these mixed ruins liquid are for you. The Lord of Darkness took out a large amount of mixed ruins liquid, which shocked Yi Tian. Thank you, Lord of Darkness. Yi Tian thanked. Chapter 2511 The Bone Transformation Conference. Ha ha ha, I have to thank you a lot. If you didn't get so many muddy ruins stones, I wouldn't be able to extract the muddy ruins liquid and make a fortune. The Lord of Darkness smiled. Anyway, there is no way for him to improve at the moment, so time is worthless, so if he has time to extract the mixed liquid, it is completely extra money. Even if the mixed ruins liquid is not useful to him, he can cultivate his own clansmen and direct descendants, or cultivate some high-level officials of the Dark Sea, which can make the Dark Sea grow. In a word, the more resources like mixed ruins liquid, the better, he will not dislike it. Yi Tian retires soon. After going back, Yi Tian began to use the mixed ruins liquid to temper his heart. In terms of resource level, the mixed liquid is much better than the ordinary sunfish tears. It's just that the mixed ruins liquid needs to be extracted from the mixed ruins stone, so it is very troublesome and the quantity is extremely rare. But now, Yi Tian has so many mixed ruins liquid, and it will not be exhausted for a long time. Certainly, it would take a long time to refine the heart of the immemorial genius of the 9 blood transformation realm to the extreme, and it would not be possible in a short period of time. Yi Tian doesn't need to worry now. With the resources he has now, it is not a problem to bring his heart to the extreme of the 9 blood transformations. What I have to do every day now is to practice more ancient techniques. Although every time I add an ancient technique, the strength of the improvement is limited, but the foundation will be stronger and the combat effectiveness will also improve. I have to create more peaks. Taiku bone surgery, so that countless bones have bone changes. When the heart is tempered to the extreme 9 times of the blood transformation, and the bones of the whole body have undergone bone transformation, I can break through to the bone transformation. Yi Tian muttered. With his foundation, once he becomes a bone transformation realm, it will definitely crush the ordinary bone transformation realm far. Taiku Court. This is a special treasure located somewhere in the seam of the territorial sea, and it is the place where the Bone Change Realm Conference will be held. On this day, a bone transfiguration appeared in the Taiku Pavilion. The Taiku Mountain Lord of the Taiku Mountain, the Dark Lord of the Dark Sea, the Frost Lord of the Ice and Snow Palace, the leader of the Taiku Dragon Clan, the Lord of the Dragon Emperor, the leader of the Taiku Peng Clan, the Lord of Jiyu Peng, the leader of the Taiku Tree Clan, the Lord of Wanshu King. The existence of this bit of bone change is gathered here. You must know that they are all existences that do not appear for endless years, and are usually in retreat, or go to some mysterious places. But at this moment, they have all appeared, and there must be something big. At this time, neither the Taiku Mountain Master nor the Lord of Darkness spoke, and all the bone transformations were waiting for the arrival of one. A figure soon appeared on the top throne. This figure looks like an old man, wearing a gray robe, with messy hair. In an ordinary small world, it might even be considered a beggar, and it is impossible to see that this existence turned out to be a great bone transformation realm powerhouse. Lord of the Void, a bone-changed realm stood up and said respectfully. The reason why they are respectful to the Master of the Void is naturally because the Master of the Void is the most powerful, and even the #1 powerhouse in the Territorial Sea. The Lord of Hollows likes to travel around the ordinary worlds in the Territorial Seas, and even likes to dress up as ordinary creatures and play in the world, which is also his pleasure. The last time they saw the Lord of Dongshu, he was still wearing the Emperor's clothes in Dongshu, and it was estimated that he was in front of the Emperor in an empire. Looking at it now, it should have gone to be a beggar. Naturally, they would not comment on the fun of the Master of the Void, and none of the bone transformation realm dared to question. It's all here. The Lord of the Void opened his mouth. It's all here. Taiku Mountain Master and other bone transformation realms nodded. What's the matter this time? You have to notify me to be there. Asked the Lord of the Void. The Master of Taigu Mountain said, Master of the Void, 2 boundary seams have been opened recently. The first one was the ruins of Longhai. Not long after the closure of the ruins of Longhai, a road leading to the boundary of our territorial sea was opened. In the passage, a large number of creatures from the ruins of the Dragon Sea broke in. Of course, the ruins of the Dragon Sea is not strong, so there is no danger. But this time, the boundary of the Hunhee River was also opened, and it was closed not long ago. It also opens a channel leading to the seam of our territorial sea, and a group of bone transformation realm breaks in. That is a disaster. Hunhee boundary seam, it's really troublesome. The Lord of the Void forgave his head. There are indeed a lot of bone transformation realms in the Hunhee boundary seam. If all the bone transformation realms came, then the territorial sea boundary seam would simply surrender. Every time, it is only a few forces in the Hunhee boundary that are willing to invade the territorial sea boundary, but it will also cause heavy losses to the territorial sea boundary. Last time, the Hunhee boundary seam was not repelled, but the time was up, and the bone transformation realm of the Hunhee boundary seam was driven away. Otherwise, how could they bear it? What's the use of you calling me here? Although my strength is stronger than yours, the Lord of the Ruins in the Hunhee boundary seam, even if his strength is suppressed, I can only reluctantly contain him. Said the Lord of Hollow. The Lord of Darkness said, Lord of the Void, we at least have to discuss a countermeasure. What should we do if the Hunhee boundary seam invades soon? The Lord of the Void said, actually, this is not the most serious thing. The Hunhee boundary seam invades. The big deal is that you hide. When the time comes, they will have to leave. I am worried about another situation. It's really troublesome. What's the situation? Asked the Lord of Darkness. Boundary seam fusion. The Master of the Void said, I existed in the era before the primordial era, and there was a boundary seam fusion in that era. The territorial sea boundary seam is so big, it is actually a fusion of many boundary seams. The place. It's just that the years are too long, and I can't remember it. If it really is the fusion of the boundary seam, if the Hunhee boundary seam is integrated into the territorial sea boundary seam, it can exist here forever. It won't work. The faces of the Taiku Mountain Lord and the Lord of Darkness changed one by one. It's just a possibility, the Master of Do Ok Jiao said, because it is opened, the barriers that represent the gap between the collar and the boundary are very weak. If there is no interference, the people who integrate are not high. However, I am afraid that the old guys at the boundary of the Hunhee will interfere. Will the bone change realm of the Hunhee boundary interfere? Why is it good for them to integrate into the boundary of the territorial sea? The Lord of Darkness was puzzled. The Lord of the Void said with a smile, of course there are advantages, the biggest advantage is that the land of the boundary will not collapse. Anyway, the places I saw at the beginning are now gone, maybe it is broken, all living beings are perished. The personality of the Hunhee boundary seam is higher than that of our territorial sea boundary seam, but it is just the energy level. But in fact, any territorial sea and boundary seam must be attached to the territorial sea boundary seam. The territorial sea itself is in the territorial sea boundary in the seam, but the boundary seam is inlaid outside the barrier. Any accident, the boundary seam will collapse and completely turn into nothingness. The Hunhi boundary seam is very powerful, but they are also worried about this kind of thing. Chapter 2512 The plan of the boundary seam of the Hunhi River open black lens bracket seeking full order close black lens bracket. After the Lord of the Void said so, the faces of the bone transformation realm present changed drastically. If this kind of thing really happened, and the Hunhi boundary seam merged into the territorial sea boundary seam, then the powerhouses of the Hunhi boundary seam would not be suppressed by the territorial sea boundary seam. At that time, they can exert their full strength. How can they resist? At this time, the Lord of the Void said again, the Hunhi boundary seam is really going to merge in, there will be a time, and we are not hopeless to stop it. If it can't be stopped, then there is no way to do it, then just run away. 1. The Lord of the Void is not too worried. Anyway, he is a lonely man. It's a big deal that he runs alone. Who will chase and kill him? Even in the Hunkshu cave, they would not dare to hunt him down. For this kind of lonely people, if you can't kill them, just wait for revenge. Therefore, it is impossible for Hunkshu Cave to attack the terrifying Lord of the Void. Hey, that's all it takes. The Lord of Darkness also said helplessly. The other bone transformation realm didn't speak. They didn't want this kind of thing to happen, but if it did happen, they could only try to stop it. Otherwise, if the boundary seam of the Hunhi River is really integrated into the boundary seam of the territorial sea, a war will definitely break out, which is inevitable. At that time, those forces in the Hunhi boundary seam will definitely clean them up in order to snatch more territory. Who made them weak? Let's go, don't worry so much, maybe nothing will happen. After the Lord of the Void finished speaking, he immediately disappeared. Hunhi boundary seam, mixed ruin cave. At this time, the Lord of Hunkshu also summoned the 8-bone transformation realm in Hunkshu cave. If the Taiku Mountain Master knew that there were 9 bone transformation realms born in the Hunkshu cave, they would definitely be shocked, because at the time of the Primordial War, there were not so many bone transformation realms in the Hunkshu cave. After the Lord of the Ruins summoned these bone transformations, he opened his mouth and said, "Just now I held a meeting with the heads of other top hegemonic forces to discuss a plan." Lord of the Ruins, what's the plan? Asked the White Dragon Lord, the deputy cave owner of the Hunkshu cave. The Lord of the Ruins said, "It is a plan to integrate the boundary of the Hun River into the boundary of the territorial sea." Integrating into the seam of the territorial sea, why is this? The resources there are not rich. We sacrificed a lot in the battle of the ancient times, but only a small amount of resources and some ancient golden leaves were snatched, which is of little significance. Other bone transformations do not understand. What do you know? The Lord of the Ruins said solemnly, "There is something wrong with the bank of the Hun River. According to our calculations, the bank of the Hun River may overturn the entire boundary of the Hun River. Therefore, the way is to integrate into the territorial sea boundary seam. Although the territorial sea boundary seam does not have enough personality, we must also rely on the territorial sea boundary seam. Moreover, the territorial sea boundary seam itself needs to be integrated with each boundary seam to improve the personality. The initial territorial sea boundary seam it's really just a small gap area, so don't care about it. We need to keep the Hunhi boundary gap before it can exist forever." Yes. Several bone changes responded. At this time, the Lord of the White Dragon asked, "The Lord of the Ruins, when will we implement this plan?" The Lord of the Mixed Ruins said, "Wait until our Hunhi boundary seam opens the crack entrance to the territorial sea boundary seam. At that time, we will join hands to force the Hunhi boundary seam into the territorial sea boundary seam through this crack entrance. As for now, well, you need to arrange a part of the magic circle first, and when the magic circle is opened, you can move the entire Hunhi boundary seam." Next, the Lord of Hunkshu ordered the 8 bone transformation realms in Hunkshu cave to arrange formations one after another. Yi Tian didn't know these things about the bone transformation realm. He still practiced silently, creating top-notch primordial bone techniques one by one, so that his countless bones were transformed, and his strength was steadily improving. 155 countless bones complete the bone transformation. It's really difficult. 1. Yi Tian said with emotion. It is too difficult for an ancient genius to become a bone transformation realm, but once he breaks through, his strength will definitely be extremely terrifying. Therefore, it is hard to say. Then, he paid attention to the recent situation of the human race. The human race has now given birth to hundreds of thousands of blood changes, not bad. 1. Yi Tian said with relief. Even if there are many blood change races, there are so many blood change experts. And the human race still has a lot of powerful blood transitions. There are also some 4 blood transitions, 5 blood transitions, and even 6 blood transitions and 7 blood transitions. For example, his son, Yi Xingqian, has now raised his strength to the 7-time blood change realm Taiku level genius, and his combat power is no less than the top 9 blood change realm. The human race has grown so fast, naturally thanks to the sunfish tears he obtained from the seam of the Hunhe River. It's a pity that there is no chance to enter the seam of the Hunhe River again. Yi Tian said with emotion. In the blink of an eye, another period of time passed. The territorial sea boundary seam was very calm, and nothing major happened. Hunhe boundary seam. Crack. A huge crack appeared on the sea of mixed ruins. Swish. A bone transformation realm from the Hunkshu cave appeared here, and the Lord of the Hunkshu also came. It's finally here. The Lord of the Ruins looked at the entrance of this crack with a satisfied look. This is the second time connecting to the boundary seam of the territorial sea. The first time they didn't know much about it, otherwise they would have done it long ago. Whoa whoa whoa, a statue of bone transformation has come here from all over the world. Boom, the primordial chaos dragon also came, making every one of the bone transformation realm show a look of jealousy. The primordial chaos dragon, you are all awake. The Lord of Chaos said lightly. Hee, you guys are about to turn the sea of the Hunhe River upside down, and even my chaos sea has been affected, can I still not wake up? Primordial Chaos Dragon said coldly. Primal Chaos Dragon, since you are awake too, then join in to help. Anyway, this matter is good for us, and it is also good for you. You don't want to wake up, and there will be no such thing as Hunhe, said the Lord of the Ruins. Okay, let me help. Primordial Chaos Dragon agreed. Then go back to various places and start. The Lord of the Ruins suggested. Next, these bone transformation realm existences return to specific locations one by one, manipulating the magic circle to move the entire Hunhe boundary seam. Great formation, get up. The Lord of the 100 Ruins and many other bone transformations mobilized the Great Formation, began to move the boundary of the Hunhe River, and then merged into the boundary of the territorial sea. Click, the entrance to the crack is getting bigger and bigger, and it keeps spreading. This led to the discovery of a huge crack on the other side of the territorial sea. Dark Sea. When the Lord of Darkness received the news, his expression changed immediately. The worst thing happened. Lord of Darkness. Chapter 2513 cut off the boundary of the Hunhe River open black lens bracket seeking full order close black lens bracket. Swish. The Lord of Darkness, the Lord of Taiku Mountain and other bone transformations all gathered at the entrance of the crack in the boundary of the territorial sea. They could see that the entrance to this crack was expanding, and they could even vaguely see the territory of the boundary crack of the Hun River. How to do? The Dark Lord frowned. I don't know, wait for the Lord of the Void to come over. The Taigu Mountain Lord frowned. Soon, the Lord of the Void came. At this time, the Lord of the Void looked at the crack and sighed deeply. It's still this day, there's nothing we can do, let's try to stop it. How to stop it? A bone transfiguration asked. The Lord of the Void said. It's impossible to resist directly. We can't contend against the entire Hunhe boundary, and we can't fight against so many bone changes. At present, there is only one way, that is to wait for part of the Hunhe boundary to squeeze in. When the territorial sea boundary is seamed, all of our bone transformation realm will act together to cut the boundary seam of the Hunhe River. Cut off the boundary of the Hunhe River, how can this be done? The other bone transformations were shocked. It can be done. The Lord of the Void took out a broken knife. This is the ancient magic weapon splitting the world. Although it is broken, it can still deliver a blow. At the beginning, this knife cut off a knife. The top boundary seam is a weapon that exists 6 times of bone transformation. Later that one fell, and this broken weapon fell into my hands. I am the main, you are the auxiliary, and all the power is integrated into the after this knife. With a single blow, there is a 70% chance of severing the boundary seam of the Hun River. 1. Okay, that's it, the other bone shifters agreed. Besides, they have no other way. Click, click, click. The boundary seam of the Hun River extends little by little into the boundary seam of the territorial sea. And the Lord of the Void, they have already begun to gather strength into the world-splitting knife, and are accumulating force to launch a blow. It's not time yet, the Lord of the Void. At least wait for a small part of the Hunhe boundary seam to come in before you can do it, otherwise it won't matter if only a small fragment is cut off, and the Hunhe boundary seam will continue to squeeze in. In that case, they would fall short. Therefore, they must wait until enough Hunhe boundary seam territory is squeezed in before they can launch an attack. Time passed slowly, and more ancestors gathered here. When they learned about the situation, they ran away in fright, not daring to stay here. The Hunhi boundary seam is going to be integrated into the territorial sea boundary seam. Yi Tian was really shocked when he knew this news. If they are really successful, it will be troublesome. The power pattern of the entire territorial sea and seam will definitely undergo huge turbulence, and many forces will definitely be destroyed, even the Dark Sea may not be able to survive. Yi Tian pays attention to the situation all the time. If something is not right, he can only send the human race from the territorial sea to the Wanlong territorial sea. Relying on the territorial sea advantage of Wanlong's territorial waters, it may be possible to ensure a certain degree of security. Swish! Yi Tian used Taiku to move his body and quickly arrived at the place where the boundary of the Hunhi River descended. At this time, he saw the Hunhi boundary seam that was merging into the territorial sea boundary seam, and also saw a group of bone transformation realm heavenly ancestors. With so many bone transformation realm ancestors, can they prevent the Hunhi boundary from coming? Yi Tian muttered. Soon, part of the territory of the Hunhi boundary seam has been integrated into the territorial sea boundary seam. Unexpected. The Lord of the Void, they shot. Cut. The splitting knife turned into a knife light that was enough to kill the general bone transformation, and instantly crossed a long distance, aiming at the seam of the Hunhi border, and there was such a knife. The speed of this knife is too fast, so that every one of the bone transformation realm in the boundary of the Hun River has no time to react. The knife light slashed into the boundary of the Hunhi River, severing the sea area, land and void here, and completely split. Some unfortunate blood changes were touched by the knife light and turned into ashes in an instant. This knife also cut off countless creatures. Click. A part of the territory of the Hunhi boundary seam was separated, and those magic circles were also cut off. Damn, the Lord of the Ruins was furious. They didn't expect that the bone transfigurations in the territorial sea boundary seam would be able to cut off the Hunhi boundary seam, which made their plan a failure. A part of the boundary of the Hunhi River fell into the boundary of the territorial sea, but this part only occupies a small area, and most of the territory can no longer be integrated into the boundary of the territorial sea, and the connection is directly disconnected. At this time, the cracks continued to heal, and I was afraid that they would have to recover soon. Escape into the territorial sea. Some bone transformation realms that were close to each other rushed in, but more bone transformation realms had no chance. For flowers, there is no way to escape into the territorial sea and the sea, the three can only find a way to collapse, otherwise they will look at the eggs. And the part of the Hunhi boundary seam that fell into the territorial sea boundary seam is still not really integrated into the territorial sea boundary seam at this moment. Moreover, the entrance to the boundary seam of the Hun River and the boundary seam of the territorial sea has disappeared in advance. If they break into the boundary seam of the territorial sea now, they will definitely be moved and expelled. Therefore, they did not leave immediately, but stayed in this small area of the boundary of the Hunhi River, watching the Lord of the Void and the others from a distance. There are still a lot of bone transformation realm breaking in. The Lord of the Void. At least not without the power to contend, said the Taiku Mountain Master. Let's go, they won't come out in a short time, go back and think about countermeasures. 1. The Lord of Darkness. The boundary of the Hun River fell into this part of the boundary of the territorial sea. The Lord of the Ruins looked at everything around him and breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the mixed ruins sea has successfully entered here. After all, the Hunhi boundary seat uses this part of the mixed market sea as the front end to rush into the territorial sea boundary seam, so the entire mixed market sea is still in. So for him, there is nothing to lose. On the other hand, many forces only had a sporadical part of the ancestors in the bone transformation realm entered here, and they were out of the track with the forces behind them, which was really depressing. Lord of the Ruins, look at what you have done. Primordial Chaos Dragon said angrily. He just came to help, but now he is staying here, while his descendants are staying in Zhuanai, but Zhuanai did not enter the boundary of the territorial sea, but stayed in the boundary of the Hunhi River. I don't know what happened. Woolen cloth. Everyone, I don't want this kind of thing, but after it stabilizes, let's see if it can be connected to the rest of the Hunhi boundary seam. The Lord of the Ruins. It can only be this way. The other bone transformations nodded. Subsequently, they began to build circles to stabilize and consolidate these territories. In addition to the mixed market overseas, there are more than a dozen similar territories that have entered together. The top hegemon level forces like the Hunkshu Cave have almost entered 6 completely this time. Coupled with the existence of the idle bone transformation realm, their strength is still very strong. Chapter 2514 Mixed into the boundary of the Hunhee River again, seeking full order. Dark Sea. The Lord of Darkness called a high-level meeting. Soon, all the upper floors arrived. At this time, the Lord of Darkness said, "You should have all heard the news, a part of the boundary of the Hunhee River has been integrated into the boundary of the territorial sea. Although they are not afraid to enter the boundary of the territorial sea, they will wait until that part of the boundary of the Hunhee River completely integrated into the territorial sea boundary seam, they can be unrestricted, and can even exert their full strength. Lord of Darkness, will war break out when the blood-changing creatures and bone-changing creatures at the boundary of the Hunhee River come out?" A 9 times blood-changing world ancestor asked. "This possibility is very high," the Lord of Darkness said solemnly. "In the ancient times, we had a war with the Hunhee boundary seam. At that time, although we faced the 3 top boundary seams, their strength was suppressed, and finally it is also time for them to be expelled after 327. But this time is different, their strength will not be suppressed, we are afraid that we will not be able to beat them." "How powerful is the Hunhee GG?" another Tianzu asked curiously. The Lord of Darkness introduced. Take the Hunkshu Cave as an example. The Hunkshu Cave has 5 bone transmutation level geniuses, and the most powerful bone transfiguration in our territorial sea boundary seam is only 4 bone transfiguration. Of course, this is only the data of the past. We don't know the strength of the Hunkshu Cave at present. But since the Taiku World War I, the territorial sea boundary seam has almost been destroyed, and the resources are insufficient. The Hunhee boundary seam has a lot of resources, so they will grow faster. The integration of the Hunhee boundary seam into the territorial sea boundary seam will also enhance the status of the territorial sea boundary seam. Haifeng Tianzu said. "It's a promotion, but it doesn't make sense. Even if there are more resources, we need time to grow, and now we don't have that much time for us," said the Lord of Darkness. "Lord of Darkness, do we have any countermeasures now?" Yi Tian asked. The Lord of Darkness pondered for a while, and said, "We have discussed it before, and there is a general plan. That is to give up a large area and not conflict with those overlord-level forces at the boundary of the Hunhee River. For example, our cultivators retreated to some in the territorial sea, such as the Taiku territorial sea. It can probably accommodate several top overlord-level forces. It is also possible to combine the forces and combine them into a super top overlord-level force. If they gather together, the Hunhee boundary seam will not dare to attack casually. But if it is really attacking, I am afraid that it will not be able to stop it." At this time, Yi Tian asked again, "Lord of Darkness, when will the bone transformation realm of Hunhee boundary seam exist? Is there an approximate time?" "According to our calculations, at most 2 primordial era." The Lord of Darkness. 2 primordial era. Yi Tian breathed a sigh of relief. For other heavenly ancestors, the 2 primordial era is only a very short period of time. After all, which of their cultivation years is not based on 10,000 primordial era? Just 2 primordial era, there is no way to improve the strength by much. But Yi Tian is different, given him 2 primordial era years, he must have broken through to the bone transformation realm. After reaching the bone transformation realm, he has more self-protection ability. After the meeting, Yi Tian continued to retreat, striving to complete the bone transformation of the countless bones in his body as soon as possible, thus stepping into the bone transformation realm. At the same time, he also has a plan to see if he can sneak into the boundary of the Hun River. "I didn't expect that the Hunhee boundary seam would merge into the territorial sea boundary seam, and the cloned body was annihilated. I knew it earlier and kept it," Yi Tian regretted. Afterwards, he dispatched a cloned body to approach the territory where the boundary of the Hun River was located. The boundary seam of the Hun River is currently merging with the boundary seam of the territorial sea, and the area is constantly expanding. Once this part of the Hunhee boundary seam is completely integrated with the territorial sea boundary seam, it will definitely occupy the incomparably huge territory of the territorial sea boundary seam, but it will also upgrade the territorial sea boundary seam and expand the territorial sea boundary seam. At this time, Yi Tian restrained his breath and approached the boundary of the Hun River. The bone transformation realm in the Hunhee boundary should still be busy transforming the Hunhee boundary. He has no time to pay attention to the outside world, and he didn't even expect that there would be a 9-time blood transformation realm Taiku-level genius who would dare to sneak into the Hunhee boundary. In 1. Yi Tian muttered. Swish, he escaped directly into it and was not restricted. The creatures in the Hunhee boundary will be expelled away, but he is not restricted from entering the Hunhee boundary. The origin of this part of the Hunhee boundary cannot expel him, because there is no such ability. Hunhee boundary seam. After Yi Tian came in, he immediately hid his breath, then copied his talent to scan all around, and immediately started copying a blood-changing creature. Soon, the copy was successful. He let the blood-change creature leave quickly. In this way, even if his real body duplicate body is discovered, if there is another duplicate body still, it can be considered that he has successfully sneaked into the seam of the Hunhi boundary. This real copy body can't move, just hide it here, otherwise it will be easily exposed. Yi Tian thought to himself. Afterwards, he acted in this territory with another cloned body. The cloned body he copied was the 8 times blood-changing creature he had used before, so there was no problem with his identity. Soon, he used this replica body to explore the environment here and understand the situation here. At this time, many creatures in the boundary of the Hunhi River were panicked and did not know what happened, so many blood-changing creatures were discussing. This day, he came to a giant city and found that there were many blood-changing creatures gathered here, and they were discussing the integration of the Hunhi boundary seam into the territorial sea boundary seam. It is said that our Hunhi boundary seam is integrated into a place called the territorial sea boundary seam. What's going on? It is said that the bone change realm bosses above think that the Hunhi boundary seam cannot exist permanently, so this is only 5.9 to find a way out, and our Hunhi boundary seam is actually attached to the territorial sea boundary seam. It turns out that this is the case. Isn't the territorial sea boundary seam very powerful? It's amazing, it's not as good as our Hunhi boundary seam. In terms of personality, we are a little higher, otherwise why would the bone transformation realm beings above integrate into the territorial sea boundary seam? I heard that there was a problem. The boundary seam of the Hunhi River was cut off. At present, only a small part of the boundary seam of the Hunhi River has been integrated into the boundary seam of the territorial sea. I contacted my friends in another territory, but now I can't contact them. Anyway, this matter has nothing to do with us, still do what we should do. Yi Tian came here and quickly learned which territory this piece of territory was. Don Sea. This is a territory near the Sea of Ruins. Chapter 2515 Qishan, mixed in open black lens bracket seeking full order close black lens bracket. Chen Shihai is the site of the top hegemonic force, Qishan. The strength of Qishan is slightly weaker than that of Hunkshu Cave, but there are also several bone transformation realm existences, and their strength is still quite strong. Qishan, maybe I can join this force and become a strong man. If war really breaks out in the future, if I get into the top of Qishan, I can also keep the human race. Yi Tian murmured. No way, other top hegemon level forces in the territorial sea and boundary seam do not have much confidence. Once a war breaks out, no one dares to say that they are fine. So, he must be prepared. The potential of this duplicating body is not very good. You have to give it to an ancient ancestor, and then become a genius at the ancient level, and then join the top power of Qishan. Yi Tian planned. Afterwards, he gave the cloned body an ancient level ancestral gift, and then began to practice an ancient technique, the ancient golden light fist, which was very easy to practice. However, after training, the skeleton of his body began to transform, but his cultivation has dropped a lot. He was originally at the peak of the 29th peak of the 8 blood changes, and now he has just broken through to the level of the 8 blood changes. This is because the original foundation is too weak, so after becoming an immemorial genius, the cultivation will be lowered. In addition, his copy body is not as good as other immemorial geniuses. After all, he became an immemorial genius after 8 times of blood transformation. The foundation in the early stage is not enough. But Yi Tian is not going to practice a few more ancient techniques, because if it is too evil, the scope will be doubted. Now this is the best. This day, Yi Tian came to Qishan as this blood-changing creature. Bloodfish Tianzut is here to join Qishan. Yi Tian shouted. Another one who joined Qishan, an ordinary 8-time blood change creature. We have many Qishan, the origin is unknown, we will not want it. A 7 times blood change creature said coldly. He is a world-breaking genius, so his strength can be regarded as the top among the ordinary 8 blood change realm ancestors, so he has this arrogance. At this moment, Yi Tian's body was filled with the breath of ancient art, which immediately shocked the world-breaking genius. An ancient genius. Immediately, the world-breaking genius went to report. The primordial genius of the 8 blood transformations is much stronger than those ordinary 9 blood transformations creatures. As long as he does not encounter the 9 blood transformation primordial geniuses and the existence of the bone transformation, he is almost invincible. Such a strong person, Qishan will also attach great importance to it. Under normal circumstances, such immemorial geniuses can only be cultivated by top overlord level forces. If they have their own forces, how could they join Qishan? But they don't care about this issue, they just report it. Boom! A 9-time blood-changing creature appeared. It was a huge ancient ape with a terrifying aura. It should be an ancient genius. Elder Ji Yu Xing, Elder Ji Yu Xing, Elder Ji Yu Xing. When a blood-changing creature saw this ancient ape, it was extremely respectful. Shoot me, Ji Yu Xing ordered. Without hesitation, Yi Tian directly cast the Taiku Golden Light Fist and punched Ji Yu Xing. The power of the terrifying primordial art was integrated into this punch, shaking the void in the seam of the Hun River, smashing the endless time and space with one punch, and bombarding Ji Yu Xing's body with a punch that surpassed the limit. When, Ji Yu Xing did not move at all, but the power of this punch was virtually eliminated. The physical body is terrifying. At least 300 pieces of infinite bones have been transformed into bones. This ancient star elder is about to break through to bone transformation. This is an ancient genius. Once he breaks through to bone transformation, what will his strength be? Horrible! Yi Tian exclaimed secretly. Of course, his real body is not bad, and his strength is not weaker than this ancient star elder, even stronger. It is indeed an ancient genius. Ji Yu Xing recognized. Which force did you belong to? He guessed that Yi Tian might be an immemorial genius of a top hegemon level force, but the boundary of the Hun River was divided, so this immemorial genius had no help from the forces, so he might want to join Qishan. As for why he hadn't heard of Yi Tian, that's normal, maybe it's a hidden and cultivated genius. However, Yi Tian's answer surprised him. Elder Ji Yu Xing, I'm not a member of any of the top overlord level forces. I was originally just an ordinary 8-time blood change creature. Not long ago, I was lucky enough to obtain an ancient technique. I found that it was easy to practice it. It seems that it's perfect for me. Yi Tian explained. It's easy to practice the ancient art. Ji Yu Xing was slightly surprised. He guessed that Yi Tian should have an ancient ancestry, and he happened to encounter an ancient technique that matched his ancient ancestry. He was lucky enough to practice the ancient technique and became an immemorial genius. Okay, you will be a member of Qishan from now on. Ji Yu Xing said. In this way, Yi Tian successfully mixed into Qishan. After joining Qishan, he found that Qishan had a fragment of an ancient golden tablet, which recorded a lot of ancient golden inscriptions, and it was an ancient golden inscription that he did not know. The ancient golden stele at the boundary of the Hunhe River should be different from the ancient golden stele at the boundary of the territorial sea, and the ancient golden inscription on the boundary of the Hunhe River seems to have been broken, otherwise there would be no fragments of the ancient golden stele in Qishan. Yi Tian guessed. He has to admit that the strength of the Hunhe boundary seam is still much stronger. Even the ancient golden monument can be broken, but the territorial sea boundary seam cannot. Later, in 327, he discovered that there are still many inscribed ancient bronze inscriptions in Qishan. Yes, this time I can learn more about the ancient inscriptions, which is very helpful for creating the top ancient bone art. In addition to being able to comprehend these ancient inscriptions, the resource treatment is also very good, and a lot of resources will be provided for him to practice. And through Qishan, he also knew the strength of the Hunhe boundary seam, which is stronger than the territorial sea boundary seam imagined. Raise the strength of this body first, then use the influence of this body to collect some resources, bring out the seam of the river, and improve the strength of your real body. Yi Tian murmured. Years go by. In the blink of an eye, 1/10 of the primordial era passed. At this time, Yi Tian, the cloned body of the bloodfish heavenly ancestor, had already become an immemorial genius of the 9 blood transformation realm, and he had received the attention of Qishan and possessed a very high place. Chenshihai also has mixed ruin stones and a treasure called mixed dragon blood marrow, which is very helpful to cultivators, so he also collected a lot of mixed dragon blood marrow and sent them out. Through these resources, Yi Tian's real body's heart tempering speed has been accelerated, and it will definitely be upgraded to the pinnacle of the 9 blood changes in a short time. This day, the Qishan high-level meeting seemed to involve a big event. And although Yi Tian joined Qishan not long ago, he is a powerful, immemorial genius with 9 blood changes, so he is naturally qualified to participate. Chapter 2516 Breaking into the Ancient Golden Realm, the bone transformation creature is dumbfounded. Qishan, internal time and space. A high level of Qishan gathered here, and Yi Tian was also among them. Not long after, 4 bone-shifting creatures appeared. Heiser, Giant Bone, Tong, Shiwang. These are the names of the 4 bone transformation creatures. Among them, Shiwang is the descendant of the founder of Qishan and the current leader of Qishan, but his strength is not the strongest, and the strongest is the Lord of the Giant Bones. However, the one who spoke at this time was still the Lord of Shiwang. The Lord of Shiwang opened his mouth and said, "Everyone, this meeting is mainly to discuss the quota of the ancient golden world. The Taiku Golden Realm has opened." A 9-time blood change creature was surprised. Many high-level officials have discussed it. Prime Gold Realm. Yi Tian didn't know this place, so he was a little confused. Immediately, he asked Ji Yuxing. "Elder Ji Yuxing, where is the ancient golden world?" Yi Tian asked. Bloodfish Tianzu, the primordial golden realm is a world that appeared after the primordial golden steel was broken. It was originally inaccessible, but after the primordial golden steel was broken, it would appear once in a long time. However, the bone transformation realm entered the world. No, there are only 2 ways to enter the ancient golden monument. The first method is to completely pass the 5 assessments of the ancient golden monument before the ancient golden monument is broken. In that case, you can enter now. The solution is to force it in. With the strength of the 4 bone transformation realm of Qishan, we can probably put 5 to 6 blood transformation realm creatures in. Therefore, everyone wants to enter, but there are too few places. GU Star News. Is there any benefit in the ancient golden world? Yi Tian asked again. There are naturally many benefits. It is easier to create ancient bone techniques, and a lot of ancient bone techniques can be created in a short period of time. I went in before and created more than 30 ancient bone techniques at one time, but only the first one. Entering the primordial golden realm for the first time, the effect is the best. Ji Yuxing said. Created more than 30 top ancient bone techniques at one time. Yi Tian was surprised. Creating primordial bone technique is very difficult. Ji Yuxing is definitely not like him. He can use his body to try, and scrap his body to create it again and again. It must be extremely difficult to comprehend primordial Jinwen, but it is so easy to create so many top-notch in the primordial golden realm. The primordial bone technique shows that the value of the primordial golden realm is too high. Hunhi boundary seam is so powerful, and so many bone changes have been born, I am afraid it has something to do with the ancient golden world. Yi Tian guessed. However, he just joined Qishan, and he definitely has no hope of getting this spot. Unless the bones of Qishan are stupid, they will give him a place. Moreover, it is even more difficult for an ancient genius to become a bone transformation realm, especially when it comes to the last few boundless bones. It is unimaginably difficult to transform it, and it is not just about creating a top ancient bone technique. You can complete the transformation. If it is so simple, the bone transformation will not be so rare. Certainly, Yi Tian felt that this bottleneck would definitely not be difficult for him. Soon, these high-level officials voted in the form of votes to decide who the places would go to. At this time, fame and relationships are needed. There is no doubt that there can be no high-level vote for him, unless he votes for himself, but it also makes no sense. So, Yi Tian chose to give Ji Yuxing the chance to vote. Anyway, he felt that Ji Yuxing was definitely selected. Sure enough, one of the few places has returned to Ji Yuxing. The ancient golden monument of the Hunhi boundary seam was broken, so the Hunhi boundary seam can enter the ancient golden world. At present, the Hunhi boundary seam has not been completely integrated into the territorial sea boundary seam, and it is still a part of the Hunhi boundary seam, so from the Hunhi boundary seam in the seam of the river boundary, it is forced to enter the ancient golden realm. And the ancient golden monument in the boundary of the territorial sea is still intact, and there is no way to enter the ancient golden realm from the boundary of the territorial sea. First of all, the ancient golden world should be the same. After all, the Hunhi boundary seam is attached to the territorial sea boundary seam and should not be different. If it is the same, the ancient golden monument is equivalent to a connection point, but the connection between the Hunhi boundary seam just opened up. I passed the 5 assessments of the ancient golden monument at the boundary of the territorial sea, and this assessment record must be recorded in the ancient golden realm. In this case, can I break into the ancient golden realm directly from the boundary of the Hunhi river? Try it. The big deal is to lose a duplicate body and expose the clone. They just think that I have more clones. Thinking like this, Yi Tian was ready to try it out, and when the entrance to the ancient golden realm was realized, he took the opportunity to forcefully rush in. Soon after, the entrance to the Taiku golden realm stabilized. Swish, one by one, the ancestors of the blood change realm went to the entrance of the ancient golden world. This time, they were also lucky. The entrance happened to be in this part of the Hunhi boundary. If it was in the other part of the Hunhi boundary, it would not be their turn. Yi Tian, the cloned body of the bloodfish heavenly ancestor, also came with Qishan's large army. Although he didn't get a quota, he couldn't enter there, but he could come here to see the excitement. And Yi Tian's real body copy body is hidden in the void in another blood change state copy body. Anyway, this blood change state copy body is a temporary copy, it is used for sacrifice. He did not approach at first, lest he be discovered, and only hid in the dark. When these bone transformation realms were to tear the entrances one by one and send the blood transformation realm creatures who had obtained their quotas in, he took the opportunity to try to break into the primordial golden realm, so that he would not be blocked, and the success rate was very high. If it appeared in advance, it would definitely be discovered by the bone transformation creatures, and then punched him to death. Time passed slowly. Finally, the bone transformation creatures took action. Boom! The terrifying force forcibly tore the entrance to form a small passage, and then sent Ji Yuxing and other blood-changing creatures in. Now, Yi Tian let this blood-changing creature copy the body to rush over, and his real body was hidden in it. Swish! The speed of the blood-changing creature is very fast, okay. It will leap over in an instant, as long as it is not blocked, it will be fine. And these bone transformations naturally have no time to block, or even pay attention. After all, there is no quota, but there are always idiots who want to forcibly break into the primordial golden realm, so they also think that Yi Tian is such an idiot, and they did not seriously spy on Yi Tian's situation. Unexpected, Yi Tian rushed out of the cloned body of this blood-changing creature and stepped directly into the entrance of the ancient golden realm. So brave. Court death. They all recognized that Yi Tian was an immemorial genius in the sea of territorial seas. He even dared to sneak in, and wanted to break into the ancient golden world. Ha ha, they do not think that Yi Tian can enter the ancient golden world, so they are ready to kill Yi Tian. However, call out, Yi Tian entered the Taiku golden realm directly without being hindered. At this moment, they were all dumbfounded. Chapter 2517 360 bones have changed. How did this guy get in? The Lord of the Ruins and the other group of bone transformation realm were very stunned, and they didn't think of the reason for a while. Soon, a bone metamorphosis creature guessed. This immemorial genius is from the seam of the territorial sea. Will he pass the 5th level of the ancient golden monument in the seam of the sea? It's really possible, but how hard is it to get past the 5th level? The pupil of the Lord of the Ruins shrank. After all, he is very aware of the difficulty of the 5th level. At the beginning, he only passed the 4th level, and he has never been able to pass the 5th level. Later, when he became a bone transformation realm, he would not have the opportunity to pass the assessment of the ancient golden monument again. Just wait until he comes out and kill him. Yes, you have to go through this entrance when you come out of the ancient golden realm. With the strength of his 9 blood changes, can he still escape? Is this immemorial genius a fool, thinking that if he can break into the immemorial golden world, he can leave alive? This guy has great potential, but unfortunately he has to die. Yi Tian kept listening, and smiled inwardly. These guys thought they were courting death, but unfortunately it was just a copy of his body, and there was no problem in killing them, as long as they could gain benefits from the primordial golden realm. At this time, the Shuiyuan Tianzu of the Hunkshu cave opened his mouth and said, "The Lord of Hunkshu 343, I seem to have seen the primordial genius just now, the primordial genius who broke into the Hunkshu sea before is him. Killed, but at that time, he only had 8 blood changes." 1. The Lord of the Ruins frowned. "Are you sure you are this immemorial genius? The breath is almost there." Shuiyuan Tianzu said, but his tone was not very sure. "Maybe it's not the same ancestor, it's just the same race," said the Lord of the Ruins. Seeing this, Shuiyuan Tianzu didn't say anything anymore. Anyway, he just reported it. Whether they believe the Lord of the Ruins or not is another matter. Moreover, in the eyes of many bone transformation realm creatures, this primordial genius at the seam of the territorial sea is sure to die, and there is no need to worry about his identity. Taiku Golden Realm. Yi Tian entered here and was immediately discovered by other blood transformation creatures. However, the primordial golden realm does not allow fighting, so they just stared at Yi Tian and did not do anything else. The ancient golden world is not very big, but the whole world seems to be composed of golden rays of light, and there are even projections of ancient golden monuments in the surrounding void, but they cannot be touched. These should be the projections of the real ancient golden monument, but there is no way to touch them, you can only look at them. Yi Tian thought to himself. Shish, these blood-changing creatures sat cross-legged one by one and began to practice. The primordial golden realm is most suitable for creating primordial bone technique and comprehending primordial golden inscriptions, so they naturally don't want to waste time. After all, they cannot stay in the primordial golden realm forever. Once the entrance is closed, they will all be moved out. Yi Tian didn't waste any time, and immediately began to cultivate. He tried to create a top-notch ancient bone technique, and as soon as he tried to create it, countless auras suddenly appeared, and his understanding and aura continued to emerge, as if this was a good place that was born to create ancient bone techniques. This effect is so good, it won't be long before I can create a top ancient bone art. Yi Tian said excitedly. Sure enough, it didn't take too long. Yi Tian successfully created a top-notch ancient bone technique, and then integrated it into an immeasurable bone, allowing this immeasurable bone to successfully undergo bone transformation. The immemorial golden world, coupled with the ability to replicate his body constantly, made Yi Tian's creation of the top immemorial bone technique many times faster and easier. Gradually, Yi Tian created more and more ancient bone techniques, more and more immeasurable bones in his body completed bone transformation, and his strength became stronger rapidly. On this day, Yi Tian's 300th infinite bone completed its transformation. At this time, he was very close to the transformation of countless bones in his body. 310 immeasurable bones have changed. 3 CJFJ 120 countless bones have changed. 330 countless bones have changed. 340 countless bones have changed. After a long time, Yi Tian has already completed the transformation of 360 immeasurable bones, and only the last 5 immeasurable bones are left. At this time, he found that he continued to create the top ancient bone technique and integrated it into the immeasurable bones, but he couldn't make the immeasurable bones complete the bone transformation. Stuck in a bottleneck, Yi Tian muttered. He felt that he might be able to ask the Lord of Darkness, and perhaps the Lord of Darkness had good advice. Dark Sea. Yi Tian came to visit the Lord of Darkness. Endless heavenly ancestor, what's the matter with you? Asked the Lord of Darkness. Yi Tian immediately said his question, Lord of Darkness, I have completed the bone transformation of 360 immeasurable bones, how can I make the last 5 immeasurable bones complete the bone transformation? What, you have completed the bone transformation of 360 bones? The Lord of Darkness was stunned. If an ancient genius wants to complete the bone transformation of immeasurable bones, he must create a top-notch immemorial bone technique. Yi Tian has now completed the bone transformation of 360 immeasurable bones, which proves that Yi Tian has created 360 peaks. The ancient bone art. This is too fast. He knows very well that Yi Tian has not become the heavenly ancestor of the 9 blood transformations. How could he have created so many sharp ancient bone techniques? This is simply too demonic. Soon, he came back to his senses. Infinite heavenly ancestor, the last 5 immeasurable bones want to complete the bone transformation. It is difficult to do it only by relying on the ancient bone technique, especially the ancient genius. It is even more difficult to do. This is also very difficult for the ancient genius to become a bone transformation. One of the greatest reasons for existence. The Lord of Darkness said. What is the solution? Yi Tian asked. He doesn't believe that an ancient genius can't become a bone transformation realm, because there is an ancient genius-level bone transformation realm in the Hunhe boundary seam, and the territorial sea boundary seam also has this bone transformation realm, but it is difficult to continue to improve after becoming a bone transformation realm. The cultivation base is not high. Of course there is a way. The Lord of Darkness said. The first way is to create the most advanced ancient bone art that surpasses the top ancient bone art, which requires a lot of ancient inscriptions. In short, I just heard about this method. I haven't met anyone who created it. The second way is to find special treasures that can transform countless bones and bones. There are many treasures that can transform boundless bones and bones, but they are basically only suitable for bone transformation, giving 9 blood changes. If it is used in the blood transformation realm, the boundless bone can't bear it, and it will shatter directly. Therefore, this special treasure suitable for the blood transformation realm is rare and valuable, but it is basically broken through the second method. When the Lord of Darkness said this, Yi Tian completely understood. Chapter 2518 Supreme Ancient Bone Technique. Yi Tian chatted with the Lord of Darkness for a while before choosing to leave. After leaving, Yi Tian pondered which way to break through. The resources suitable for my breakthrough are very rare. According to the Lord of Darkness, there are still some resources of that kind in the primordial era, and there are not many of them now. Even the Dark Sea can't make up the amount of bone transformation that can be completed by ordinary blood transformation. Not to mention let me break through. I am afraid that I will have to give me all the special resources of the entire territorial sea and boundary seam, so that I can almost get a sufficient number. 1. Yi Tian muttered. Therefore, he either made it together in the Hunhe boundary, or gave up this method. It's more difficult to get it together in the Hunhe boundary seam. Now the Hunhi boundary seam is only a small part of it, and the resources are not too many. It is also extremely difficult to gather together. Unless you wait for other top boundary seams to open, then break in and slowly look for it, there is hope, get it together. Yi Tian thought about it carefully, and felt that it was better to create the supreme primordial bone technique first, and this hope was a little bigger. It just so happened that he was still in the primordial golden realm, so trying to create a supreme primordial bone technique might be successful. Then try it, Yi Tian decided. In order to create the most advanced ancient bone technique, he first comprehends the ancient inscriptions obtained in Qishan. So, his bloodfish Tianzu returned to Qishan, and began to comprehend the ancient inscriptions, and then cooperated with the cloned body of the ancient golden world, and soon completely understood the ancient inscriptions. After comprehending more and more ancient inscriptions, he began to create the supreme ancient bone art, and took a replica body for experimentation. The experiment failed again and again, and the duplicate bodies were scrapped, but Yi Tian's understanding of the ancient bone art became deeper and deeper, and he became more and more confident in creating the supreme ancient bone art. Time flies, and a long time passes. At this time, it was not far from the closure of the Taiku Golden Realm. Finally, on this day, Yi Tian successfully created a supreme ancient bone technique, but it also made him almost exhausted his background. If he wanted to create the supreme ancient bone technique, he had to find more ancient inscriptions. Otherwise, the number of ancient inscriptions is not enough, and the background is not enough. After this supreme ancient bone technique was created by Yi Tian, he merged into one of the last 5 immeasurable bones, allowing one of the immeasurable bones to complete the bone transformation. Boom! This boundless bone change has a great impact on the body, and the body directly becomes stronger. I didn't expect that the creation of the supreme ancient bone technique would be integrated into the boundless bones, and the transformation would be so huge. Yi Tian said excitedly. Unfortunately, he was unable to create the second supreme primordial bone technique in a short period of time. After a while, the Taiku Golden Realm will be closed. A blood-changing creature was removed from the ancient Golden Realm. Outside the Swire Golden Realm, a bone-changing creature was waiting here, and seeing a blood-changing creature being moved out, they all surged with strength, ready to kill Yi Tian when Yi Tian came out. It's coming out, the Lord of the Ruins said. However, when all the blood transformation realm creatures came out, Yi Tian was not seen. Immediately, they were all dumbfounded. Because at the moment when he was about to be moved out, Yi Tian directly annihilated his copy body, so he was not moved out. Ties on high, Yi Tian said with a slight smile. I am afraid that the bone transformation realm of the Hunhi boundary seam is still very ignorant, I don't know why they didn't see me. Next, he will collect as much ancient inscriptions as possible. There is not much hope in the boundary seam of the territorial sea, so we must start from the boundary seam of the Hunhi River. Except for Qishan, other top hegemonic forces must have more ancient inscriptions, so they can also start from them. If you want to get the Taigu Jinwen of other top overlord level forces, you can only continue to open the vest. Yi Tian muttered. Anyway, he has a lot of cloned bodies now, so there is no problem with opening a few more vests. When each of these vests has become the high level of the top hegemonic forces, for him, where is there any crisis? The next one will be mixed into the Hongshu cave. Yi Tian decided. Mixed cave. Yi Tian changed his identity this time and joined the Hongshu cave as the primordial water ape. Ask for flowers. This replica body is named Shuiji Tianzu. Of course, the Hongshu cave does not require any blood changes, so he showed the strength of 8 blood changes at the breaking level, joined the Hongshu cave, and then pretended to be a fluke in the Hongshu cave and became a Taiku. The technique has become an immemorial genius. In this way, he also received attention in the Hongshu cave. After becoming a primordial genius, he is not subject to any restrictions and can comprehend many primordial inscriptions in the Hongshu cave. In the years that followed, Yi Tian comprehended these ancient inscriptions as soon as possible. With his comprehension, the speed of comprehending the ancient inscriptions is naturally very fast, and he has thoroughly comprehended one ancient inscription after another. In addition to Hongshu Cave and Qishan, he also used a cloned body to mix into another top-level overlord level force, True Dragon Cave Heaven. This top-level overlord level force is somewhat special, and only collects blood-changing creatures containing dragon blood. Therefore, his brand new replica body is an ancient dragon snake named Longyan Tianzu. After mixing into the real dragon cave, he slowly mixed into a primordial genius, gaining the attention of the real dragon cave, and he can also comprehend the ancient inscriptions of the real dragon cave. Although the ancient inscriptions have overlapping parts, there are also many brand new inscriptions. Swire inscriptions. Bloodfish, Shuiji, Long Yan. These are Yi Tian's 3 current clone body identities. Yi Tian will not move for the time being, and will not continue to increase clone bodies, otherwise clone bodies will not be enough. After all, they usually have to use clone bodies for experiments. Guarding Taishuanhai and looking for other opportunities are usually very busy. I have comprehended a lot of ancient golden texts, but I can continue to create the supreme ancient bone technique, but at least it will take a long time, unless I can enter the ancient golden world again. Yi Tian murmured. In addition, he is also looking for resources to help him complete the bone transformation, how much he collects, but he can't completely rely on it. Both methods have to be tried, otherwise it will take too long for him to become a bone transformation realm. This day, a piece of good news has arrived. Another top boundary seam is about to open the corpse. Chapter 2519 Yahi Boundary Seam, Yahi Palace. Another top boundary seam has opened. Yi Tian was surprised. It seems that today's territorial sea boundary seam barriers are indeed very fragile, leading to the opening of boundary seams one by one. Soon, he knew the name of this top boundary seam, Yahi Boundary Seam. The Yahi Boundary Gap is also a top boundary gap, slightly weaker than the Hunhi Boundary Gap, and it is also one of the 3 top boundary gaps that invaded the territorial sea boundary gap. The boundary of the Yahi River opened. Yi Tian was not nervous but rather excited. I just feel that there are not many ancient inscriptions. The Yahi Boundary Seam is a top boundary seam. There must be ancient inscriptions, but it is possible to mix in and understand some ancient inscriptions. Yi Tian thought to himself. He also decided to enter Taiku Jinwen to try to find resources that suit him. Seeing if he can gather the resources to transform himself into a limitless bone, now he only has 4 limitless bones left. 343. Dark Sea. Yi Tian is chatting with the Lord of Darkness, and by the way, he learns some information about the fissure of the Yahi boundary from the Lord of Darkness. The Lord of Darkness knew that Yi Tian was going to enter the boundary of the Yahi River, and he also told Yi Tian the specific information, but these information may be out of date, so Yi Tian should not completely believe these information. Lord of Darkness, will Yahi Jifeng learn from Hunhi Jiji and directly integrate into the territorial CGG? Yi Tian asked casually. It shouldn't be. The Lord of Darkness shook his head. We have just discussed the bone transformation, and the Lord of the Void has also calculated that the current territorial sea boundary seam is in a state of digesting the territory of the Hunhi boundary seam. In the process of upgrading. Under this circumstance, even if the barriers of the territorial sea boundary are fragile, but the resistance to the outside world is very strong, it is difficult for the Yahi boundary to squeeze in. So this is Yi Tian nodded. As long as the Yahi boundary seam is not integrated into the territorial sea boundary seam, the pressure on the territorial sea boundary seam will be very small, otherwise it will really not be able to withstand the pressure of the 2 top boundary seams. After finishing chatting with the Lord of Darkness, he went directly to the seam of the Yahi boundary. Just when he was about to enter the boundary of the Yahi River, he encountered a bone transformation realm heavenly ancestor. It's him, the Master of the Void. Yi Tian was surprised that the number 1 expert in the territorial sea boundary was going to the Yahi boundary. I have seen the Lord of the Void. Yi Tian said respectfully. The Lord of the Void saw Yi Tian and looked at it. You are the endless ancestor of the Dark Sea, you are really good, you are about to break through to the bone change. Lord of the Void, do you also want to enter the boundary of the Yahi River? Yi Tian asked curiously. Yeah, the Lord of the Void sighed. There's no way, the bone transformation realm in the Hunhi Jaijiao will come out in just a few primordial era, and then we can't stop it. I'll go to the Yahi Jaijiao to see it. See if there is any chance. If you can break through to the 5 blood changes, you will have the confidence to fight against the top overlord level forces in the Hunhi boundary. At least, everyone can sit down and talk, and there will be no conflict. Yi Tian instantly admired the Lord of Dongshu. After all, the Lord of Dongshu was a lonely man without any influence or race. He could run away by himself at any time, regardless of other forces. However, he took care of it. Come on, let's go in together. The Lord of the Void. Swish, Yi Tian and the Lord of the Void entered the boundary of the Yahi River together. Yahi Boundary Seam. As soon as Yi Tian came in, he found himself in a sea of red. This is where. Yi Tian doesn't know much about this. Wow, the Lord of the Void appeared next to him and looked around. This is the Red Dragon Sea of the Yahi Jaijiao, and it is the territory of the Red Dragon clan at the Yahi Jaijiao. I'm leaving, you should be careful. There are several Red Dragon clan. Bone metamorphosis. Swish, the figure of the Lord of the Void disappeared and left here. It turned out to be the territory of the Red Dragon clan. Yi Tian knew about the Red Dragon clan, and the Lord of Darkness briefly mentioned it. There are a total of 6 top-level Overlord-level forces in Yahahieshang. Although there are not many top-level Overlord-level forces, each of them is very powerful. Among them, the Red Dragon clan belongs to the weakest top-level Overlord-level force. Yahi Palace, the ancient magic capital, 9 Regions Alliance. The Sea of Osan, Dark Knight River Mansion, plus the Red Dragon clan. This is the 6 top Overlord-level forces of the Yahi GG. Among them, Yahi Palace is the most powerful, and if the name of Yahi Jiesho can be used as the name of the force, one can see the terror of this force. According to the introduction of the Lord of Darkness, the heritage of the Yahi Palace is far inferior to that of the Hunkshu Cave, because the Yahi Palace gathers the resources and geniuses of most of the territory of the entire Yahi Jiejiao, and has the number of bone transformation realms reached double digits. It is precisely because of this that the other 5 top hegemonic forces in the Yahi Jiesho can only submit to the Yahi Palace, and even give up their interests, not daring to offend the Yahi Palace. Of course, this is immemorial intelligence. Now what is the specific situation, he still has to figure it out. Swish, Yi Tian left this area and soon discovered an 8 times blood change creature, but it was not a red dragon creature. He immediately shot, killed the opponent instantly, then copied the opponent's body, and then walked in this red dragon sea as the opponent. And Yi Tian's real copy body is hidden, and he is not ready to act, otherwise it will be troublesome if he encounters bone transformation. He does not have the strength of the Master of the Void. The Master of the Void is a world-breaking genius who has undergone 4 bone transformations. He can save his life even at the boundary of the Yahi River, unless he is besieged by a large number of bone transformations. There is no hope of escape. But he can't. Once he encounters any bone transformation realm, don't even think about escaping. Therefore, it is better not to go out with his real copy body, so as not to startle the snake. Yi Tian walked in the Red Dragon Sea in the identity of the cloned body Jiyu Lu Tianzu, and soon came to an island area, where there are many blood-changing creatures and there are some cities. After entering here, he didn't do anything and only learned about intelligence. Soon, he got an amazing news at 5.9. The Red Dragon clan has been wiped out. It was the Yahi Palace who took the shot, and several members of the Red Dragon family were directly killed, and the entire Yahi boundary seam now does not even exist a Red Dragon. Is such a powerful top hegemonic force gone? Yi Tian was extremely surprised. After he understood the reason, he knew why the Red Dragon clan was destroyed. The reason was very simple. The Red Dragon clan once hunted down a weak blood-changing creature, but he did not expect the other party to join the Yahi Palace, and later cultivated it has reached the 3rd bone transformation, and it is an ancient genius. This combat power is comparable to that of the Void Lord of the 4 blood changes. Therefore, the ancient genius became one of the 3 deputy palace masters of the Yahi Palace, and thus directly killed the Red Dragon clan. Chapter 2520 Taking Advantage of the Fire. The Red Dragon clan is really unlucky. A blood change realm that was bullied casually turned into an ancient genius who turned into a 3-time bone change realm in the later stage. Who would have imagined this? Yi Tian sighed secretly. It has to be said that the Red Dragon clan is still not good enough in terms of background and luck, otherwise it will not be destroyed. Knowing the situation of the Yahi Jiejiao, he felt that it was better to infiltrate the Yahi Palace, and there was no need for the other top hegemonic forces to infiltrate. Then go to Yahi Palace. Yi Tian decided, and Yahi Palace, as the first top hegemonic force of Yahi GG, has high requirements for members and it is not easy to join. However, it was not difficult for Yi Tian to join the Yahi Palace. No matter how powerful Yahegong is, it will still need immemorial geniuses and world-breaking geniuses. Then, Yi Tian's cloned body began to cultivate towards a world-breaking genius and an immemorial genius, and then mixed into the Yahi Palace. However, his real body didn't spend much time in the Sea of A River, so when his real body was moved out, he might not be able to infiltrate the high-level position of A River Palace. You still have to find a way to get some resources and take them away. Yi Tian thought to himself. After a period of 29 minutes, Yi Tian's Jiyu Lu Tianzu copied his body as an ancient genius and mixed into the Yahi Palace, and then he practiced at Yahi Palace with peace of mind, and soon came into contact with the ancient inscriptions. I have to say that there are many ancient inscriptions in Yahi Palace, and he has only been able to understand a lot of ancient inscriptions after only touching a small part. Afterwards, he knew about the resources that Yahi Palace needed to help the 9-time blood change realm immemorial genius to impact the bone change realm. Yahi Gold Liquid, Taiku Vine Fruit, Endless Golden Marrow. These 3 resources can help the ancient geniuses complete the last few boundless bones for bone transformation, but even the Yahi Palace does not have many, unless they make great contributions to obtain these resources. Yahi Jinye is located in Yahi, which is a special treasure of the Yahi Jejiao, but it was occupied by the Yahi Palace, and the Yahi Palace was built on the Yahi. The ancient vine fruit is the fruit that bears on the ancient vines. Only one fruit will be born in the 100,000-year-old era. Once it bears, it will be taken away by the Yahi Palace. Don't even think about it. 1. As for the endless golden marrow, it is a resource extracted from the endless ancient gold. The endless ancient gold is found in all the territories of the Yahi boundary seam, but the extraction requires the help of the bone transformation realm. Yi Tian thought about it carefully, and the most promising thing was the endless golden marrow, followed by the Yahi golden liquid. But if he wants to transform one of his infinite bones, he needs a lot of endless golden marrow, which means that he needs to collect a lot of endless ancient gold. However, the boundless ancient gold in the borders of the Yahi boundary is scattered, and it is good to be able to trade a few pieces. If you want to buy a lot, only the Yahi Palace can do it. Yarhegong's control of resources is too ruthless, even if other top hegemon level forces want to cultivate an ancient level genius level bone transformation realm, it is almost impossible, and even ordinary bone transformation realm is difficult to cultivate. Yi Tian muttered. In this case, it is difficult for him to gather a resource, and he must think of other ways, and the conventional method will definitely not work. Just then, a message came. A branch of the Yahi Palace was attacked, a large number of blood transformation realm creatures were killed, and a bone transformation realm elder fell, and all resources were attacked. Hearing this news, Yi Tian immediately thought of the Lord of the Void. It should be the backbone of Dongshu, and only he has the strength and courage to dare to attack Yahi Palace. Yi Tian secretly said. At this time, a bone transformation realm of Yahi Palace was disturbed and vowed to hunt down and kill the Lord of the Void. Since this incident, the entire Yahi boundary has become a little chaotic. Not long after, the Lord of Hollow Void attacked a branch again, but without success, he was besieged by many bone transformation realms. But the Lord of the Void still escaped in time, and also severely injured a bone transformation realm in the Yahi Palace. In the following years, Yahi Palace continued to encircle and suppress the Lord of the Void, but every time it was unsuccessful. It has to be said that the escaping ability of the Master of the Void is still very powerful. However, the confusion caused by this cannot be resolved, and even some branches are understaffed. This day, Yahi Palace mobilized Yi Tian, the ancient Lu Tianzu, to guard a branch, because that branch was attacked, and many blood-changing creatures died, so it was necessary to send some blood-changing realm powerhouses to guard. Originally, an immemorial genius like him did not need to be guarded, but he had only joined the Yahi Palace not long ago, so he was not taken seriously. But Yi Tian was very excited, because he went to that branch, so he could hope to do something. If you stay in Yahi Palace all the time, you won't have any chance. Even the Lord of the Void would not dare to enter the Yahi Palace. Yahi Palace, Konghai Branch. Yi Tian was sent here. After he came, he was assigned to sit in an area. If there was a problem, he would solve it immediately. In addition, the endless ancient gold collected by some of the blood-changing creatures below must also be handed over to the Konghai branch. I didn't expect that after being sent here, I can still get access to endless ancient gold. Yi Tian felt a little surprised. Soon, he had an idea, that is, to find a way to rob the endless ancient gold of the Konghai branch, which is much faster than collecting slowly. Certainly, the 343 body replica of his body will definitely not participate, and the hands-on must be a replica of the real body. After all, his cloned body managed to infiltrate the Yahi Palace, but it can't be scrapped. This day, Yi Tian finally found an opportunity. This branch once had a guard, and this time the change has left. And Yi Tian has already figured out the situation of this Konghai branch and the location of the treasure house, so he can start directly. My real body replicates the body, and the combat power is infinitely close to the bone transformation realm, even no less than that very weak bone transformation realm. Once it starts, the success rate is very high. Yi Tian thought to himself. Subsequently, he started immediately. Konghai branch. Yi Tian came in directly, a genius of the 9 times blood transformation realm breaking realm, and several creatures of the 9 times blood transformation realm blocked him, and he was directly smashed to death by his primordial demon fist. Boom! A punch fell, and these blood-changing creatures were directly killed. Immediately afterward, he broke through the formations and finally arrived at the treasure house. Boom! After blow, this treasure house was finally broken open. He didn't even check what the treasure house's resources were, just took it away, and quickly fled. After a while, a bone transformation realm came back, and when he saw the looted Konhai branch, he was immediately furious.